So, welcome. Many of you were here last night, but for those of you who are new, this is the first annual Quantum Morphogenic Field Conference. This is something that my partner Lee has dreamed about for many, many years. And we are so glad that all of you came back from last night, because last night was so much fun, and that you are here again to enjoy the two sessions that we're offering, 3 to 5, and then 6:30 to 8. Our mystery guest, who was not here last night, is joining us, and this is Max Champe, the Innovator of C60. And of course, Grant Clarke from Energetix, amazing homeopathic remedies. Lee, our favorite practitioner here in beautiful Mount Shasta of the MFT field medicine. And of course, over here is our beloved teacher, Frank Springob, and he has been spreading the word of this new medicine all over the country. That is really his mission right now. Yeah, and he does a great job at it.
And I'm over here not because I'm antisocial, but it's cooler over here.
Yes, yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So we hope you enjoy this session this afternoon and you come back in the evening, because the evening is going to be especially wonderful. That is a time when any question that has arisen in you about what these amazing practitioners and cutting edge visionaries are presenting is available for you to ask and be responded by them. We would like to do it on paper. So if you have a question, please write the question down at the last session today. Hand it to me when you get here, and then I will go through and ask those questions of the panel, so that way we don't have hands and people trying to, speak on top of other people. So hopefully it'll be a little more kind and organized. Please turn your cell phone off if it happens to still be on. Is there anything else I need to share?
Just about tomorrow.
Oh, well, I'll do that later. Is that okay? Yeah. So today is not the end of the conference, of course. We have 2 more days, and I'll share that with you a little bit later. But have a wonderful time.
Okay. So what I'm going to do today is get you all tuned up. So we're going to have a little participation with the audience, if you'd like to do that. And especially with people that have come in and are just walking in. Welcome. You got here just in time. What we're going to do is I'm going to show you how this field energy worked. We talked about it all last night: quantum energy medicine, quantum field theory, quantum this, quantum that. Well, so what is it? And I showed you, and Frank did some testing last night. He's going to do it all weekend with people and show you how this works. But my studies and journeys and teachings for many years was out in the field and showing people how the field works within the earth grids, within your human body grids, and how we can change and shift things, how we can find our balance. So I'm going to give you a couple little fun exercises so that you can actually have an experience of what it feels like to come into your own field. And they're very simple things to do that I hope you take home with you and you use them, maybe the rest of your life. Because I have been doing this forever, and it's helped me tremendously in able to find center in the midst of chaos. And so some of these things are very ancient techniques like Qigong and other things that we can use. And then I'm going to show you how we can very quickly connect a field where we're all one. So that's going to be the fun experiment we're going to do here in just a couple minutes. And it doesn't take long. So the first thing I want to show you how to do, everyone's been traveling. Some people just got here by the moment and the hair of their chins. And so, you know, we're kind of off. And I know lots of people were telling us last night, including ourselves, we had a hard time sleeping, had a hard time unwinding. The energy in the room was really intense. Some people had the best sleeps of their lives. So, you know, whatever happens for whomever. And so that's whatever your field's responding to with all the stimulus and things that we talked about. All right, we got more. Come on in. And so here's what we're going to do. Why don't you get your feet planted on the ground, both feet, uncross your legs. I think I'll try to do this with the microphone. Okay, so one of the ways that and Frank will talk about this, and Max is going to talk about this in relationship to how C60 and things can amplify your field in many ways, and we're showing this with the clients that we work with here in town, and some of the live blood cell analysis, we see extraordinary things happening. But one of the ways you can balance your field very quickly, especially if you're in stress or if you're in trauma or if there's something happening and you can't get it together. All right, so this is a technique I've used for years and years and years. It is a Qigong technique. So put one hand up, it doesn't matter which one, okay? Right about your waist, and one hand down. Okay, now you can either keep your eyes open or closed, and I want you to just sort of kind of feel the energy field of your hands or anything around you. You don't have to even think about it. Just hold it like this. We're going to go about 30 seconds to a minute. Just observe where you were just a moment ago and what's going to happen to you in the next couple of minutes. So just be a witness to all of this. You don't have to figure it out. You have to think about it. If you're feeling any sensation, just watch it all. No opinions. You might notice certain sides of the body, the feel changing. You can do this for 2 minutes. You can do it for 30 minutes. You can decide how you're going to do it. Okay, so it takes usually 30 seconds to a minute. And what we're doing is the palm that's facing down is connecting to the magnetic field or the grid of the planet, the Earth field, which is about 18 inches above the Earth. It's a magnetic field. So you're connecting one aspect of your polarity down. Now shift your hands the opposite way. And just notice as you're doing this, any sensations or things you're witnessing. So now the opposite hand that's facing up is connecting to the magnetosphere of the planet, which is about 80, 100 miles out. So what we're doing is we're attuning our field to the Earth grid itself, on the planet and around the planet. Now, very gently, you can keep your eyes or keep them closed. Take your fingertips, put them together, like this, and take them right at your belly button. You don't have to put it right on your belly button, but bring it in a couple inches from your belly button. And just sit here for about 30 seconds to a minute. And again, just notice any sensations or just witness the whole thing. We could keep going on for the next half an hour, but we can't do that. We have a time limitation here today. But as you release this, and just notice what you're experiencing now compared to what you did 3-4 minutes ago. Feel different? This is one of the simplest techniques that you could ever imagine that you can get yourself back into your center. And the more you practice this, the more you, and it's not even a practice, it's just come. The more you just implement this in the morning, during the day, if your life or things are crazy and you need to focus for 5 minutes, you don't have to sit and meditate for half an hour. You can quickly get your field back into balance. And the more you do this, the more the field responds to this idea that, oh, that's right, that's where I'm supposed to be. And then when you're going to hear with, especially with Frank this weekend, about how do you find balance within the field so that whatever the distortions are, emotions, biochemistry, mental stuff, energetic things coming from all over the cosmos right now that's stirring everyone up, especially living here in Mount Shasta, for those of you that know that we are constantly being upgraded with frequencies. Sometimes our field can't handle it, so these are one of the very simple ways that you can regulate to bring your field back into balance. So let's do something as a group now, okay? So what I want you to do, somehow we're going to figure this out. I want everyone to touch everyone. So we're gonna somehow connect. Yeah, maybe you could touch her. Okay. Okay. Now you got to make sure we're all connected here. So okay, we're gonna make one big loop. All right. So everyone's got to get connected. Okay. And Max, you can just touch me anywhere. Okay, there you go. All right, so now we're all connected, right? Are we all connected? Actually, we're supposed to be connected, but that's okay. We are connected. We are definitely connected. Okay. Okay, so now all I want you to say is, we are connected, okay? Now, as you saw last night with the dowsing rods, if that's a true statement, the rods are going to go this way, right? You've seen this before? So just say, we are connected. We are connected. That's not true. But we are. So what's going on? Well, maybe some people are not totally here. Some people aren't in their bodies. Maybe some people don't have an association with someone else in the mental, psychological, emotional field. But now I'm going to show you how we can connect our quantum field together by just being connected by doing one simple thing. Actually, two. What I want you to do is tap your thymus. 1, follow me. 1, 2, 3. Inhale. Hold your belly button and exhale. Let's do it again. 1, 2, 3. Inhale. Exhale. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Inhale. And exhale. Reconnect. Say, we are connected. We are connected. We just created a field by breath in connection with your chi, your hora, the center point of your balancing field. And that's the magic. Yeah. So, that always gets the crowd. How did you do that? So, anyone got any questions? No? Yeah, it's because we're all connected. The mind's not in action right now, right? Go ahead. Yeah.
Would we have had to touch each other for that?
Yes. Yes, because we actually had an intention to create the field of connectedness. Now think about that in your community, with your family, with your people you work with. You know, we're all doing this all the time, but you know, as we begin to understand what is about to happen on planet Earth, we are going to need these connections more than ever before if we want to kind of navigate through these wild tsunamis and waves of energy and things. Sorry. So yeah, it's very important to understand how you can balance your own field, and especially with people that you're going to be connected with. And eventually, as this whole planetary shift takes place with many of you, and as you know what's coming and all the different things that are possible, is how do we navigate through it? We have to be able to navigate through these things and still stay in balance and be functional and actually thrive. our motto with the Remodeling Your Health is happiness leads, what is it? Wellness leads to happiness, okay? Yeah, wellness is happiness. So thank you very much. So yeah, so these are the things that we like to see happen, and certainly getting the biochemistry in balance is a very important part of it, your emotional body, your mental body, and of course the spiritual aspect of our true selves, or the quantum field. The field itself can never be altered because it is immortal. We are immortal beings, as you may or may not know, because we're just energy. And Frank talked about this last night. Grant's talking about it with how the Energetix work. And then how do we amplify that? How can we increase the ability for our fields to hold that balance point and still expand at the same time? And that's why we're excited to have Max here today, because we've seen with certain enhancers, you can actually do this in a way that we hope, and I think Max will probably hopefully talk about this, is that these genetic codes and blockers and things that we've had held into our genetic DNA and the programs that the body says it's only supposed to be able to access is only working, like I said, about 1/3 of what its potential is. We're coming to a time where we're being given the opportunity to activate these codes, which means a lot of implications that I've mentioned a few last night, stronger bodies, lighter bodies, higher intelligence, higher intuitiveness, things that the masters have talked about and some of them have achieved in our lifetimes in many, many thousands of years. This is what the Hopis and many others said. We are the ones that are going to walk between the worlds now. We're going to move into what we've been basically a carbon-based pattern, and now moving more towards a possibility of silica, which means things are more fluid, they're more activated. We have more information from our light field bodies that is what is our quantum field, and that our physical bodies will follow, as what Frank was saying. If you do something in the field, the physical body will follow that. So this is the whole new science of what we want to introduce to everyone, and some of you know it quite well. But we're taking a whole different approach with what Grant's representing and with the Energetix products with Frank and his training, and what I'm doing with people individually here in Mount Shasta and abroad, because I can do this. I can use the quantum field in my testing with someone's in Australia. It doesn't matter because it's the field. And if we connect on the phone or on Skype, I can test them from anywhere, okay? I'd like to see more practitioners be able to do that and understand how that works. So as long as I'm in my field and if I can tap into their field, and if we know that this is an association, just like what we did, it took, 2 minutes? Anything's possible, and this is what we're now learning, how we can actually implement these things within our lives. So I wanted to offer that to you in just a little bit of a possibility, and then of course Frank's going to show you how this works this weekend with all the things that he does, and Candy. And then Grant's going to talk a little bit later on about how the Energetix products enhance the biochemistry in the field, which is something I've used with every one of my clients, and many of you are in this room, and we've had tremendous results with it. And knowing how you can test the field to see what the body wants or the chemistry wants, not what I think it wants as a practitioner. And that's where a lot of this information has been sort of distorted, or for whatever reasons, practitioners haven't always been that successful. And it may be the programmings, the schooling, the limitations of the license, and maybe just some misunderstanding. So that's part of what we're also offering here, is educating practitioners into new potentials, new possibilities, as well as lay people, public people. So with that, I'll stop there, and we can do some other playful things later on. It'll be fun. And remember this little thing. Take this with you. If you don't take anything else from what we're saying today, one hand up, one hand down. You can turn it the other way, and then bring your fingers together and hold it here, okay? And you can do it for 20, 30 minutes if you want. That can be your meditation. But it really helps to center your field. And some people can't meditate. Their mind's too busy. They just can't sit for 30 minutes. Take 5 minutes. It's the same effect. You're bringing your field back into balance. So with that, I would like to turn it over to our guests that arrived through many days, many journeys, a lot of fascinating things over the last several days, which maybe you can share with us. Max was supposed to be here yesterday, but he got caught with all kinds of transportation issues. But He made a commitment to come here. We weren't sure if that was going to happen, but he changed his plans to be here with all of you, and I really, really want to thank you for doing that. And that's integrity that we've talked about. When someone makes a commitment, say they're going to be here, they show up. That's up to all of us to do that with every person that we're working with and what we're going to be doing in our lives too. Integrity in the field that we work with is number one. And so, you know, that's going to be a key for everything coming in our new world of consciousness too. So Max Champe has been working with C60. He and I have somehow been connected for probably 8 months to a year when he first started getting this out to the public. I had to call him and talk to him because they said, what is this really going on with C60? Because as a practitioner and a researcher and a very inquisitive mind, I wanted to go to the source because I had seen a lot of other C60s that I heard about. I've seen them on the internet. People are talking about this, being interviewed by all different internet interviewers. But I felt a real affinity toward what Max was talking about, especially with Sarah Westall and some of the interviews. And we said, all right, we're going to put C60 to the test. And so Christina and I started doing it with our live blood cell analysis. We started offering it to our clients, and we were wanting to see if we got any results. Well, we've had some profound results. And Max will tell you what he is seeing from where they're coming from. And he doesn't know what we're going to share with him because he just got here. So we get to tell him what we've been seeing from our clients in the field and how C60 is affecting your biochemistry, especially inflammation and oxidative stress, which eventually kills everybody here on planet Earth, and how this is changing the way we even look at medicine and how it's enhancing things like the Energetix products and able to repair and correct the field if there's a biochemistry and severe chronic issues, which I usually get the most sick people, very sick people that find me because they've given up and they don't know where else to go. Somehow they get my name. And we've had tremendous turnabouts and changes with people. And now we're looking towards rejuvenation and anti-aging. And so I hope Max will also talk about that because that's a big part of what we see happening coming down the road. Once you get your biochemistry in balance, you start seeing things change. It changes your emotions. It changes your thoughts. It even changes the way you live your life. And so all of these things are a part of what we're offering to you through this whole seminar this weekend. And I'm just excited that Max is here. He said he didn't know what he was going to talk about, but I kind of not believe that. I know he knows what he's going to talk about, but we'd like to have him share with us what he's found so far, and he's working with people all over the world. He's got an incredible background. He was a ex-NASA scientist. Is that correct? A scientist, right? Yeah. Ex-NASA. Oh, okay. We're not going to say NASA anymore. Some of you know that implication of what that could mean. And he's learned a lot, and he's decided he wants to help humanity. So he came up with this idea with his colleagues, and they've done something that I think is a game changer for us here, especially in this country. So I don't think I need to say anything else. Let's just bring Max up here, and let's have you do your thing.
All right. Thank you. Those of you that don't know the story about C60, I'll highlight it real quick. I'm not going to go into it too in depth. 2012, Faith Massal back in 2009 was testing it at the University of Paris to see if carbon molecule, carbon C60, was hazardous to the human body. And they did rat studies where they fed the rats carbon molecules bonded to oil to see the reaction in the rats. And the reason you use rats is their metabolic rate is 50 to 1. So they age 50 times faster than a human being, so within a year's time, you see 50 years worth of results. It's not because they're the lowest thing on the food chain. It's just that's the reason they do it. And then their lifespan's usually about 2 years. And so that's 100 years at 50 to 1, so the ratios add up. So they fed this C60 to the rats, and after 2 years, the rats didn't die. And then after 4 years, the rats didn't die. So they ended up injecting them with saline. Well, first they subjected them to radiation because they want to use the same rats in a different study, and they were impervious to radiation. And they said, what is going on? So they injected them with saline solution and finally killed them at an extremely toxic rate and opened the rats up, and their organs were cleaner and newer than rats that were 3 months old that they had run tests on. So how could this be that a rat that old or a mouse that old could look better than relatively a newborn mouse? So that study kind of got squashed and put away. And at the time, he did that in 2009. The information became available to the public in 2010. And it wasn't readily available, wasn't talked about. There wasn't any C60 on the market in a commercial application. And in 2012, I was in California working for a think tank, and I was inventing a refrigerant. And I was looking for a lubricity attribute for the refrigerant. In other words, something to make it slicker, because the newer refrigerants aren't as slick. The chemicals we can use and can't use that are harmful to the environment, aka chlorine, aren't slick. So if you've ever gotten Clorox on your hand and it feels like snot and you don't know if you got it off or if it's on, that's the same thing that was in the refrigerant. So it created a less drag value. So I was looking for something to subsidize or to replace that chlorine in the refrigerant. So I ran across this C60 study, researching C60 and all its various applications. And it was interesting, but it wasn't what I was focused on. So I kind of just filed it away, and I said, that's interesting, I'll get back to it at another day and time. Well, about 8 months goes by, and my son calls me from the lodge in California, and in Colorado, and he says, Dad, we're gonna have to do something with your mom, with Meemaw. And I said, well, what's up? And he said, she's drifting in and out on a daily basis. Sometimes she goes outside and doesn't remember to go back inside, and then we see her, or conversations not holding true. And I said, oh my God. And I said, well, let me call my sisters and let's debate this. I'm not going to make the executive decision. And went back home that evening in California, and I told my wife, I said, I got a crazy idea. I think I'm going to create this particle that they tested on rats and give it to my mother. Two things. She won't remember if she took it, so she couldn't blame it on me. And if something bad happened to her, then, it may have been the less of all evils, And then I thought about it in depth, and I said, what if she does remember, and she tells my sisters, one's an attorney or works for an attorney. So I had these wild illusions, and so I told my wife, I said, I'm going to make it, and I'm going to take it too. And she goes, well, have they done it in humans? And I said, no. But carbon molecule, we're carbon-based, I'm fairly healthy, let's play the game. And she goes, okay, well, is your insurance up to date? Am I on the wheel? Let's go through these protocols. And I said, yeah, okay, good. So I created the product, bonded it, got it. I already had the C60 molecule because I was using it for the refrigerant lubricant. So I bonded it to the oils and started giving it to my mother. She was 88 at the time. In 90 days, we were on a trip with the refrigerant company, and my son, we could see an improvement with my mom on a daily basis. But within 90 days, I get a phone call from my mother, and she goes, I want to get my driver's license. And I said, Ma, you're 88, pardon the French, but 3 months ago you didn't even know where your ass was, and now you want to drive a car. I don't know that this is that good of an idea. And I said, why don't you wait until I get home, and we'll talk about this, pros and cons. And she said, okay, well, come on in. No. Is there any seats next to anybody? Come on over here. You sure? There's a couple over here, and there's two there. No problem. So while I'm on this trip, after 90 days of exposure to this chemical, it isn't a chemical, it's organic, this concoction, my son calls, and he goes, do you know where Meemaw is? And I said, no. And he goes, well, she's been gone all day. I said, well, I'm several hundred miles away. You're 40 feet away. I don't know why you're calling me to ask me this question, you know. And he says, oh, the senior citizen bus just pulled up. I think we're good. And he said, yep, she's getting off. She's headed to the house. And I said, all right, well, have her call me. So he went over and told her to call me. She calls me, and she goes, guess what? And I said, what? And she goes, I went and got my driver's license. I said, okay. And she goes, and guess what else? And I said, what else? And she goes, since I was 42 to present day, I've had to have glasses. I passed my driver's test without glasses. With no surgeries, no anything. She goes, so something's definitely improving. And I said, yes, and you're holding a conversation with me. And so that was the start that we knew we were making progress. So 5 years has gone by. My mom now has brown hair, blue eyes, and drives me crazy, and is remembering things that she doesn't need to remember, and bringing them up, and using them against me. But she's in better health now than she was 5 years ago. And there's just a couple of things that I do different, that if you've seen any of the videos and that I've talked about, everything we did with C60 and what we're doing was not for monetary reasons. The think tank, the group that I work with, myself, Live Longer Labs, we're relatively self-funded through the refrigerant world. So making the C60 and selling it to the public was not for monetary gain in any stretch. We made it because I got tired of going down. I thought somebody wanted one of our cabins at 10 o'clock at night, and it was somebody's cousin's brother, sister's uncle that had heard about C60 and had driven 400 miles and was beating on my lodge door wanting to buy a product. So that's how we created the website and created Live Longer Labs, was to facilitate that without me having to get up all hours of the night. So now fast forward in the C60 world. Wasn't patented. Faith Fathi didn't patent it, the professor that came up with this at the University of Paris. And I have emails in my pocket on my phone directly from him to me and Dr. John Reed at Johns Hopkins, where he works with us in trying to get all these bootleg operations and these people that are making it in their garage in their whitey-tidies and smoking a cigarette and spilling beer in it, because we've had people that have found it with alcohol. So, you know, it's kind of created a stain on it. Let's put it that way. The C60 that we make, we were probably one of the first products, if not the first product on the market. Is extremely unique to any other C60 out there. You could put them on, and I know everybody can talk about their products unique. You know, how many different ways can you flavor water? How many different ways can you change, you know, organic oils? How many ways? We have a technology, and I'll go into it for a second so that you understand. I came up with the technology Wimecla, which is alchemy spelt backwards. And we use a conscious energy to communicate with bugs and organisms. And if you look up our website, Wimecla Ag, we're in South America, we're in Chile, Argentina, we're in California, we're in Colorado, we're in Texas, and we use our technology to move bugs without pesticides. And what we do is we create an environment. It's literally, we consciously tell the bug that where they're at is unsafe. And then we give them an option to tell them where to go that is safe. And it's push and a pull, we call it. And we're able to move the bugs across the street into a park versus into a commercial building setting. We're able to move various other antagonistic varmints out there from one building to another. If next door neighbor doesn't pay, tough. you got all the apartment B's rats, you know. I mean, because all we do is move them from this environment, and they go to the lowest hanging fruit, which is next door or across the street or whatever the case may be. So we use this technology to move bugs. We've tested it on other things. This will be the first time I've ever spoken about this publicly. Us as human beings, we're egotistic, and we consider ourselves the top of the food chain, and everything is for our convenience. How we grow plants, how we build roads, how we do everything is for our convenience. Doesn't matter what it's going to do to the rest of the planet, as long as it's for our convenience. Okay. So us, even in this energetic world, doing research and doing healing, who are we to play the ultimate decision maker on if a virus or a bug should live when it has as much right in this plane of 3D plane of the planet as we do? In other words, we're just a bigger organism, if that makes any sense at all. Okay, so how do you deal with a virus and a cancer? We have created, through our technology, we are able to program into the C60 this same conscious energy. And then we can give you, I'll just give you an example. We've got several clients, but we have somebody in Texas who's dying of cancer. And they're covered in cancer, and the medical world's given up on them. And we programmed into the foot pads, like you see the tea tree pads that you put on your feet and absorb. We program carbohydrates and sugar into it because that's what a cancer wants. And then we create the environment in the body with the C60 that they're taking, that it raises the hair on the cancer's neck and makes it nervous. So it'll literally leave the body instead of staying and fighting for its domain. So when you do push and pull, you can get things to move that normally wouldn't move. You know, if somebody was to come to you and you've lived in your house for 30 years, you pay your taxes, you mow your grass, and they say, we're going to take your house. You know, you're going to barter up and get a gun and go butt nut crazy and fight them to the bone because that's your domain. But if they came to you and said, hey, we'll give you the house across the street, has 3 more bedrooms, a swimming pool, and a lifetime supply of Coors Light, you'll grab your shit and you're going to run across the street. And that's literally what we're doing with these organisms and with issues in your body. So all the C60 that goes out has a wellness program in it. And I know that sounds crazy, but I'm getting paid by large industries in the agricultural world because we're doing this. We're moving bugs, and we're fixing viruses on their plants. We're moving bacteria on their plants, powdery white mold in marijuana installations. This is what we do. And instead of trying to kill it, we just move it. I don't know if that makes sense to everybody, but so the difference in our C60 and everybody else's C60, nobody else knows how we do it. They could put our bottles in the same color bottles. They could put a dropper full on a plate and put it in front of a psychic person with a pendulum, somebody that's intuitive, and every time they're going to pick our C60 because it's the unseen action, and the unseen is what is controlling our health and our well-being as well as this planet. in our research, we did some Bagster research. We had plants that hooked to lie detector tests. You could walk into the room, let's say you came into the room here, I could hand you a card, or not hand you a card, but give you a choice of 2 cards. And I didn't know which card was which, and you could open it up. And when you read, burn the plant would react, because it picks it up consciously, because everything's connected. And if you read, you didn't have to say it out loud, you didn't have to do anything, but when you read water the plant, you could see the long waves in our lie detector machine. So that's how we started our basis for figuring out how to communicate with everything, was using those same frequencies and same energetic levels to communicate with bugs. So we've expanded. We can program an Arduino card, and I didn't bring it with me. It's been a tumultuous trip. We can program an Arduino card, which is a security card like you have going into a hotel room. Looks like a funky little white plastic card, may have some garbage on it from Domino's Pizza or whatever. But if you hold it up to the light, it's got a chip and a copper antenna in it, so it's programmable. It holds a frequency. It holds a circuit. We can program it, and I could have stuck it under one of these chairs, and more than likely none of y'all would have sat in that chair. Just because you sit in it, subconsciously you'd have said, something about this place, I don't want to sit here, and you'd move over there. And so back to my mom and I programmed one, and on Sunday mornings I take her to Walmart every Sunday morning to make her walk. And so we go down to Walmart at 7 o'clock, which is 30 miles away. It's not like across the street. And I take her for breakfast, and then I make her walk 3 laps around Walmart. And she goes, "Did you bring that card?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Put it on the coffee aisle under the Dunkin' Donut coffee." And I said, "Okay." She goes, "Because it's like a fist fight over there on Sunday morning for that Dunkin' Donut coffee." And I said, "Okay." So we stuck it over there, and we were both leaning on our carts and doing the Walmart thing where you watch other people. And here come people in there half dressed, half asleep, and they'd reach up for the Dunkin' Donut, and they'd go, "I'll take Starbucks today." And they'd like, so we know it's affecting consciousness. To even more support that, I'm just scratching the surface so that y'all know. We want to prove. We don't want to hypothesize. We want to see it. So if anybody knows messages in water, Emoto's work, okay. Emoto has passed, but the individual that did all his videos, that did part of his book work with him, did his photography as well as toolage under him, is Jeremy Pfeiffer. He's a scientist out of California. Well, he works at my lab. And he and I have worked using nuclear magnetic imagery and electrospectroscopy impedance. And so we can take an 8-ounce beaker of water, split it into 2 test chambers, put one in our machine, which is the spectrometer. You can and encapsulate it. It controls the temperature. It controls any outside interference. In other words, it's a miniature Faraday cage. And so there's no outside influence. We can take the sister water, which is just like it, and we can physically put it on the flower of life, and we can measure a difference in the impedance in the water. And this is the same instrumentation that modern science uses for forensics. So we're using their technology to disprove their theories. So we take the water and we can move it around. We know what shapes, what colors, what draws consciousness in. You're not creating consciousness. Consciousness is free flowing, and you pull it in, and it'll concentrate. When they're doing these healing moves and everything, you're affecting the conscious field around you, and you're drawing it in as if there was water sitting on a water bed and you pushed down the vinyl and all the water came to this location. So certain objects, certain emblems, certain colors are more conductive of conscious energy than others. And we are mapping that in our lab right now so that you could optimize all these healing aspects for the human body. So, I don't know how long I've talked, and when you're tired of talking to me, tell me, shut up. Yes?
Are you familiar with the Indian physicist by the name of Boss, who was mentioned in The Secret Life of Plants, who did similar experiments that you just mentioned about 40, maybe 15 years ago?
Maybe not me, but one of my scientists probably. I've got a couple of nerds that read everything.
He hooked up his African violets to electric machines, so on his way home he would send a thought to them and they would open the garage door.
Exactly. And we're all tied to this same field. And us as humans, we've lost that ability to connect, where dogs, animal world, and plants, just because they can't verbalize it and we can't hear it, they're feeling the pain of you cutting them. I mean, I'm just telling you, it's nuttier than we expect. Go ahead.
I got a quick question about the C60 itself. Is that the construction like a buckyball?
That's exactly what that is.
Okay, so it was going to be like cold energy and that sort of thing. There was a promise of it.
It's still coming.
Okay.
They've squashed more. In fact, I was telling Lee when we got here that NASA bought up probably 90% of the raw material for making C60 on the planet right now. So, no reason why. No reason why. And all the garage operations that I was talking about, that all of them are going out of business because they can't get it. I have a stockpile, and eventually I'll run out, but we're smart guys. Well, some of my guys are smart. I'm not even going to throw myself in that pudding bowl. But we're going to make our own C60 and do it outside of mainstream and not depend on anybody else. We were texting about it with a guy that works at NASA and Cleveland on the way up here, and he said, can you come to Cleveland when you leave here? So who knows where I'll be next on this planet. Back to C60. The present day product, when we started this, I put it in olive oil because that's what Fatih Moussal did in the study at Paris. Well, olive oil is not my favorite thing, so we expanded it and bonded it to coconut oil and avocado oil, which you see across the internet, okay? And all of them have spun off. Even Purple Power, Ken Schwartz, I've got an NDA signed by him at my office where he wasn't going to go make product, and he quit my lab and started making product on his own. And he knows this, but I'd rather, if I was going to get harassed or shut down by the government, I'd rather there be 15 more people making it that increase sales. It may not be the quality, but at least the opportunity, because it's saving people's lives. There's people with Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and various issues that didn't even care to live anymore, and it's giving them their life back. So whether they get it from me or somewhere else, I don't care. I just know mine works better because of this conscious thing that nobody else can duplicate. All right, so back to the C60. The actual oils hold some value in themselves for healing purposes, you know, Mediterranean diet and blah, blah, blah. You know, you can go to the olive oil page and get a cavity reading stuff, you know, about all the things that olive oil do for you. Hell, I don't think if you drank a gallon of it a day, it'd do all that. But firm believers, they can do whatever they say, whatever they want. That's the marketing part of it. What we've done, and it's going to be present at this show, and he's been subjected to it. we took black seed oil, which is cumin oil, and we bonded it to C60 and filed a patent on it. And so there won't be any cheap imitators. And not only did that, black seed oil, I mean, that's not something you sit around like sipping tequila. It's rough. It's like siphoning gasoline, in my opinion. It's got a petroleum flavor to it. So, you know, if I got people that complain because avocado oil tastes bad, you can imagine what they'd get to with black seed oil. So we've revolutionized the industry and taken it to the next step. We made gel caps. So we're the first group to make gel caps out of any of the product, because most of them are cheap garage operations, and it takes tens of thousands of dollars to do the gel cap thing. So we do have gel caps here at the show. I had them shipped up directly from the manufacturer before I got here. He got them yesterday. And they undergo the same energetic process, and you may see them morph in bottle color, shape, labels, because we're taking that energetic energy and optimizing all the things that pull conscious field into the product, and we're encapsulating the actual product in those fields for that purpose. Now, Lee mentioned reverse aging. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I would bet everything I own that there's not a person on the planet that's consumed more C60 than me. I would bet that. Since 2012, I take a couple ounces a day. Okay, and that's more than anybody else. There were instances that I took 2 ounces a day for 6 weeks at a time, just to see what it would affect my liver. You know, I am the human trial, trust me, because there wasn't any way we could get one done. I am the human trial. I turn 58 tomorrow. I look, and I'm not bragging, I got pictures on my phone. I've lost probably 40 or 50% of the wrinkles in my face. There's still wrinkles, but I've lost 40% of the wrinkles. My hair is fuller. Muscle tones come back. It's kind of goofy. So we did telomere test, which is the scientific basis. That's what they're basing on the ends of your chromosomes. You've got telomeres that look like shoelaces with plastic caps on them, like your shoelaces on your shoes. Okay, as that plastic breaks off the end of that shoelace, the more it breaks off, the worse it shows your age. Eventually it breaks completely off and your shoelace comes unraveled, and your DNA dies. And they measure that plastic cap, which is called the Hayflick limit. They measure the length of it to see how well you're living your life in comparison to 1,000 people in your age group, and compare your blood to them, and they compare your length of your telomeres. My original test showed that I was 56. I have an email in my pocket that I don't mind sharing that says they need more blood from me because my recent test showed I was 38. And it was an anomaly, and they wanted more blood and sent me a second sample. Well, I asked the conscious field, and it says don't give them any more blood because there's more to this than meets the eye. But we prove to ourselves, and we have 8 or 9 other people in various age groups that show, their initial test showed that close within 5% of their age, and I'm talking about from 40 to 80, and with their second test, it showed 15 to 20 years younger and showed over 100% chance of living to be 100. So we've got the proof, but I don't claim it. I don't talk about it on the website. I don't need the FDA knocking on my door saying I'm claiming that we're reversing aging. But proof's in the pudding. I mean, it's there. And there's more to come because we haven't even enhanced the consciousness into the C60 for life extension, and we can do that. So we're just doing it for wellness and to allow your body to reach homeostasis again so that it can heal itself. That's all we're allowing it to do. We're not creating any chemical issues in there. You know, when you reach age 21, your balance, homeostasis is your body's ability to heal itself. At age 21, you start tilting the scale and balance there depending on how health-wise you are. And as you age further and further, you fall behind and homeostasis starts losing ground and you start aging and dying faster than you're healing. Well, when you take C60 and follow certain protocols, you can trip that balance back to pre-21 age and you can start repairing your body faster than it's doing harm. That's how your eyes heal. Dr. Loretta Ivory, which is a microbiologist for University of Denver, is on one of my videos. She shows video proof and doctors' photos of macular degeneration in her own eyes being reversed, which there is not a cure for. So the product works. Whether you get it from me or get it from somebody else, get it, take it, because it does work. It makes a world of difference. And I'm not exaggerating it, and I don't need the sales. I'm just I'm just telling you that the product is an amazing product. And it came from the heart. It came from me trying to fix my mom, and it's evolved now, and it's starting to get steam. I think we have close to 100,000 people that deal with us on a monthly basis. So we're just a pebble in the beach of sand on how many people we've reached with this. And if you go on YouTube, there was a preacher on there saying if you take it, you're going to meet the devil, and they're going to flip a switch, and you're going to start marching the goose step to German. I don't know. They must have a serious deep pockets for disinformation is all I can say if that's what they're doing. But anything else you want me to cover here?
Yes.
Okay.
How about talking with regards with the anti-aging and the things that you're seeing? You mentioned that it also affects animals.
Oh yes, dramatically. You know, like it. Oh yeah, with pets. Your dog age is 7 to 1. We talked about the rat thing or the mouse thing at 50 to 1 biological rate. Your dog's 7 to 1. I've got it's not Live Longer Pets. I'm trying to remember what his name is. He's got 2,000 customers, and they're all Great Dane, and he lives in Utah. And he works on protocols and diets. He's a vet, and he works on protocols and diets to extend the life of Great Danes. His Great Dane was on its last leg at age 10, and this was 2 years ago. He's been on C60, and his dog jumps in and out of the truck bed of his truck. And ourselves, we had Chihuahua that was 12 years old, and the vet had seen her at 5 or 6 years old, and we took her back into the vet, and our Chihuahua went back into heat, and we took her to the vet, and the vet goes, "Oh, y'all had a puppy. It looks just like y'all's dog." And I said, "No, that is the dog." And she looked at her teeth and other orifices and claimed that the dog was newer than it was, and I younger, and I said, "No, that's the dog." And so she did a scan of her chest, and she said that the internal organs on the dog looked like a 5 to 6 year old dog, and our dog's 12 years old. So through this research, we've got an accumulation, and like I said, I was just going to scratch the surface here. We've got an accumulation of information and database of thousands of responses and emails and letters. I got them on my phone. I could share some of them, and it's literally reverting people's animals, their parents, their cats, horses, show pigs, show sheep. The Olympic team from Japan bought 300 bottles for their swim team. It didn't work out too well, you know. I mean, you can't teach a rock to swim. No, the Japanese had better times than they've ever had in past Olympics, so I can claim for that. And then I have several pro athletes as well as movie stars, rock stars. We got invited to the Poison concert backstage because Bret Michaels takes C60. We went to Bon Jovi because Bon Jovi takes C60. Tiger Woods takes it now. He's playing better than he used to play. You know, so he may be worth betting on if you're in Vegas. So, and some other pro athletes that I can't disclose, but during this new process with the encapsulation, where it's being tested that it has no drug enhancement, performance enhancement, banned substances, so many of the pro athletes are waiting for that earmark on the product so that they can start consuming it on a regular basis. With that research, with all the research we're doing, we also, I'm going to throw a wild one into the match. We have come to the hypothesis, you're going to hear it here first, that Parkinson's and Alzheimer's is a major issue, is caused majorly by the absence of sunlight. Not vitamin D, but the absence of sunlight. If your spectrum of sunlight went from that corner to this corner, from gamma rays to X-rays, if you put a strip of tape right down the middle, that's the helpful bands of light that your body needs for your mitochondria. And everything else is detrimental to your body. Well, that bandwidth, 663 to 850 nanometer, if you subject mitochondria to it, you can literally regrow the brain. And so we're working with low temperature LED lights, and we're programming the inner part of the molecule with photonic light. Somebody's singing. This karaoke? No, I'm being honored. So we're actually, it's not available to the public, but we're subjecting the C60 to it, and we're actually measuring photonic aspect of those bandwidths of light inside the C60 molecule, so that when you take it, now you are putting sunlight into your body. So 666, C6, 663, it's about 600 to 900, which is near infrared and into the infrared range. And you can look it up, you know. There's research out there. They're not talking about it much. I mean, I have helmets built with LED lights that flash into the head. I've got a tanning bed that we've converted, and we've put LED lights in, and you physically lay in it, and you can feel the difference. My wife and I did it, and she has a torn rotor cup, and it bothers her, and if she sits wrong or slumps, it becomes antagonistic, and I have an ACL from back in the day. It's just like somebody's thumb pressing on you. If I was to, it's not painful, it's not tear-jerking, you just know it's there. Well, when we both went under the lights, her location and my location felt hot water in those areas, just in those areas, just under these lights. And these lights, you could lay under them all day, even with your eyes open, and they're not sunburning you, it's not doing anything. All you can see is an off red light. And so it's affecting the mitochondria in those locations and amplifying the restructuring aspect of it. And we're in the early stages. We have, you know, you women may know, but I call them Star Trek chairs in a woman's salon where they sit down and pull the helmet down on their head and dry their hair. We have those full of LED lights. And you come in and sit in the lab and subject yourself to it, and you can take, what's that stupid game? The memory game. The Simon game, where it's colors and you press a button after the color. You can do it before you sit down, and you can be in a session and do it, and you can go 3 times further after you've been in a session just for 15 minutes subjected to the lights. So this is coming. We're not there yet. We're seeing if pulsing the lights, if subliminal frequencies banded with it at like 10 hertz, that's the bandwidth your brain operates at. All these variables we're playing with, and we're keeping at the lab so that we can optimize every aspect of it so we can get the best results in the shortest period of time. I guess that's enough of me.
So now do you see why I wanted Max to come and talk to us? Yeah. There's no way I could even begin to infer what I have been schooled by him over the last many months, and many texts and his research that he would fling onto me like he did on the way up here the other day with some things that he says, this is not to be talked about, but here's this and here's that. And you know, part of what is the challenge with what we're doing in this business, or this healing business, is that, you know, there's a lot of those that would not like to see this happen, as we know. But there's enough of us that are courageous, and we're not going to stop, we're not going to give up, and we're going to change things because it's the right thing to do. It's just the right thing to do now, and we have to follow the integrity of what we all see is true for us, which is we should be healthy, healing, thriving human beings. And we should be doing it in community. We should be doing it together. And so that was one of the goals of me coming here, and after several years of stopping everything and retiring and saying, what would I do if I ever started back up with what I used to do? And here we are. So it's been a miraculous journey to meet Max and Grant and Frank and Candy and all of you that have come to see me and are getting results through the process that we have used with our evaluation. And many of you are on C60. And we have so much more to learn about it. And one of the things that Max talked about, which was kind of cool, so people that we have been seeing, and we're doing about 40, and Christina, why don't you come on up here? This would be a good time to come up here. Oh, I thought that was you. You look just like her. Come on up, come on up. So yeah, we've been doing some test case studies, and we've been tracking it like I told Max I would do. And he says, I'll send you some, and just tell us what you find, because he needs field research from all different practitioners, people that understand what it could imply. And I have a background in genetics and things that we can see, and how can we turn these switches on that have been turned off. And what we're hoping for, and what Max is tapping into, along with what Grant has done with the Energetix products, we're going to turn these switches on and become superhumans. That's the game here. This is what we have every right to become. And some forces have said, no, you can't. Well, guess what? The game's over, and we're going to start going forward. And we're going to do things, and we're not going to let anything stop us. And many of us have been very challenged in many ways to keep ourselves going. And now we've got the force with us, which is all of you. Truly. Embrace this. This is our right. And so what we found in our center here now in Mount Shasta, we've only been here 3 months. You probably don't even know where we are. We're right on Main Street, right across from Berryville, in the yellow house. We quietly did an opening so that we could continue with what we were doing. We didn't want to really broadcast it out to the public, because we're looking for people that are committed to wanting to heal themselves. We're not healing them. We're helping you see how your field can heal itself. And so we started the Energetix products that we've seen tremendous research and tremendous results with. Frank showed me how to test the fields and see how we can get information from the field, which you heard about last night, and he's going to do all weekend. And then what Christina and I did, Christina and I worked very, very close together, is that when we bring someone in, we do an evaluation, get a history of them so we know where we're starting from, and then we have a little mapping so we can tell what areas are weak and need some support. And then we do some what we call blood cell analysis, which is a little shaky with the public. There's been a lot of controversy about it, but the way we do it, we're looking for information. We're not looking to diagnose. We're not trying to tell you this is the way it is or that. But by getting that information, then we can track and see and have metrics as we're going along and people are starting to repair and they're starting to correct with the things that we're using. And the C60 has been a game changer. And so I'm going to let you talk about that. And this is Christina Mitchell, and she works with me, and she does a blood cell analysis and then does the nutritional consulting along with myself to help people find out what their needs are. And then I do the testing. And so we're a great team, and we just keep getting more and more people coming from all over because we're getting results, and they're telling their brothers and their sisters. But I want to just mention about what the Energetix has done and how we've enhanced it with the C60, which is something we got to talk about because you're here. And so tell them a little bit about what we've seen with the C60.
So I'll just talk after Max, no pressure. that was some of the most interesting information I've ever heard in my entire life. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, I was just blown away. So yeah, I'm basically just introducing myself. I'm Christina Mitchell, and I work with Lee. And I would love it if everyone who has already worked with us and had their live blood cell analysis done, raise your hand so they can see that about half the room has had me do the live blood cell analysis. And so as a health coach, I offer that for motivational purposes. When people see their blood in real time on a big screen TV right in front of them, before I even say anything, oftentimes they have questions and input like, shouldn't that be moving faster, or what's this and what's that, and why is that stuck there? And so those are the things we're looking at and talking about. And we know that, if the blood's not moving, they're not going to have a lot of energy and oxygenation and things of that nature, just really basic stuff. But what's been amazing with what we see is now we have products to change that. And so those are Grant's products, and now the C60. And in every single case of people that we've had on the C60, we're seeing miraculous results in 60, 90 days, and it's just really changing the picture. So it's really fun to work with the product, and that's what we're seeing, and we'll show you.
So what we're also seeing, and you kind of alluded to it, like, we have pathogens in our body, which are, what Frank's written a book about, bugs in your brain, poison on your plate, which is pretty much what we're dealing with in planet Earth, toxins and pathogens. So if the pathogens override our system like a cornfield, guess what happens? Your gut gets messed up, your systems get messed up, and eventually you die from oxidative stress or inflammation. So by putting people on the C60, what I see almost every single person, like I get a lot of sick people because they've come to the end and they have nowhere else to go, and then they hear about what we've been doing, some of them, through almost all referrals. So usually their liver's messed up. That's number one. We got to clean that up. Got to get the gut working better, which can be pathogens, it can be the commercial wheats, it can be all these things that Candy and Frank are going to talk about this weekend and become even more aware of. And then it affects the thyroid. And the thyroid is the master gland that it really is the game changer in your whole body. So what we've seen with the C60, because once we get the inner terrain cleaned up and some of the other things, is that these parasites or bugs or pathogen energies really start expressing themselves that we see in the blood after 60, 90 days. So we're scratching our head and saying, what's going on here? Because we're seeing it 20, 30, 40 people. And we're also realizing with what you just said today, these bugs don't like what's happening. And they basically want to get out of the terrain that we're starting to stimulate. So then we can go on and use the Energetix products and the different signals that Grant's created with the bottles, and pretty much, whoop. Now, unfortunately, Max, they die. Okay, I just want to make sure it's okay. Because that will kill us, and eventually we create disease states with these pathogens. And as one of Amara's teacher's greatest sayings, a great teacher, master from Minnie, says, we're just a bag of bugs and dirt. So if we understand that, how do we get to homeostasis and keep it going so that we can keep the balance and keep alive? And so everyone's got different configurations, different genetics, different this and that, but there are just certain true universal laws that apply to all things. And so we're trying to accelerate that. We're trying to enhance that, especially with the toxic environment we have and the stressors of life right now, and finding what we can do to support ourselves. So I'm excited that Max is with us as a team and a group, and we can share this with people here in Shasta, and those of you that came from outside. If you're, spread the word. Tell people we got some amazing things coming. And of course, we're here to help you with what we do in our center. Find practitioners in your area that understand these things. Frank's been traveling all around the country and Candy to try to get people to become more aware of this. And of course, we got the Energetix products with what Grant's going to talk about in a few minutes and explain to you how those work, which would be very much compatible and are actually, with the C60, enhancing what he's offering with the Energetix homeopathic. So it's all part of the game that we're weaving, and we're all learning as we go. It's a magical tour of wonderment, and it really gets you excited because there are challenges that we can change, and we have the ability to do that now. We have a lot of intelligence, and we have a lot of things we don't know, but that's part of the game. And so we're really happy to share this, and thankfully Grant and Frank and Max has made it here, and we're going to share some things tonight. I think what we ought to do is take a break for 10 minutes, and then we'll come back, and then we're going to have Grant talk about the homeopathics with what Energetic represents, and it certainly ties into what Max has just talked about. And then this evening at 6:30, we're going to come back, and let's have a free-for-all, okay? Questions, answers. I'm sure there'll be more. I want to ask Max some questions now that what he shared with us today, whatever he's willing to share with in that regard, and I'm sure Frank and maybe Grant's got a few questions we'll throw out to him. Yeah, we're just going to have some fun. So let's take a break, about 10 minutes. We'll come back, and then we'll finish up for this. And I didn't know this, but actually what Max is talking about with the black, what is it called? Black seed oil C60 capsules. They are shipped, and I have them in my office, and you're the first in the country to get them if you want them. Had no idea, and I don't even know, we haven't even figured out what's going to happen with that. So we're going to bring him tonight at 6:30. We'll have C60 available. It was shipped from his labs 3 days ago. It got delayed one day, but we'll have it when we go back home to get it, so we can have it for you all tonight at 6:30. So, yeah, I mean, we can't keep C60 in stock, literally, as well. So we're going to have to order more and more so we can keep it for the people that are starting to discover it. But so much exciting new stuff. And I also now that we're going to talk later about the C60 and of other things, but now I want to bring up Grant, because what he's done with the Energetix products has been also an extraordinary piece of this puzzle that we're talking about. And so Grant's going to talk to you a little bit about the company, the Energetix, what they represent in terms of the different things that we've been using with almost all of our clients that we work with, and of course what Frank's been training practitioners all over the country with, and how to use the Energetix products and with his kits that you're going to experience this weekend. So, Grant Clarke from Energetix, come on up.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Well, I had thought I might run a number of slides and go through a little presentation that I often do for the doctors I speak to in various places, but I kind of thought better of it. That presentation that Max did was so outstanding, and it just got me thinking a little bit about something. This may seem like an oblique angle, so sorry if it does. But ever since we started doing this, and since being here in Mount Shasta, in this very special place, I've been thinking about purpose. And, you know, I have to say, when I looked out on this group before, and you'll excuse me if I make you the focus of things for a moment, but I was so grateful for each one of you. And I'm thinking particularly of those of you who live here. There is a reason you're here. There is a particular purpose to this place. And, you know, maybe as somebody coming in from outside, you feel it more particularly than if you're living here. Maybe it's the other way around. I don't know. But I wonder if you would allow me to take a moment just to take each one of you in appreciation. And then we'll see if I've got something else to say. Is that okay? Does it ever occur to you that we're all custom made? And the value of each of us is in what we bring into this world. Some form of light. All kinds of different types of light, different colors, different blends. But that's what makes us significant, whatever comes into this world, because we're here. And when I was listening to Max, I just thoroughly enjoy his unique personality, but also the pioneering spirit and what he's been doing. He doesn't look like the kind of guy who's going to be stopped by anything, does he? You know? And I appreciate that. I appreciate the same spirit in Lee, this pioneering spirit. You don't try to tell him that something can't be done. Or that it's too hard, or we're too old, or everybody else has tried that, whatever. But the spirit of the pioneer is so important. Frank's another one. Frank is like a lodestone in my life in a certain way. There's just something about him, and I've said that, and I try to embarrass him as much as possible about things like that. But so different. The differences in us are so important. They're so magnificent because they all relate to purpose. So we're talking here about certain things, particularly with what Max was saying. I felt a very strong feeling about the potential for the changing of the future, didn't you? That the future can be different based on what's happened in this room today, for instance. Depending on what people do with what came along, and I guess, you scatter seeds, and the ones that grow do, and the ones that don't. But I feel like this is a really rich seed bed. Just the few of you that I've had a chance to talk to, I've enjoyed it so much. I've enjoyed the sense of purpose as it relates to each of you. So what does that have to do with Energetix? Well, I don't know. It does have something to do with Energetix, because Energetix is based on an accumulation of the wealth of the past in a lot of ways, okay? And you think, for instance, of botanicals. How many of you here have a special affinity for plants? I bet you a lot of you, yeah, exactly. Why are the plants here? I already asked why you were here. Why are the plants here? Well, the plants have specific elements of purpose. I remember hearing somebody speak a long time ago about the fact that all the cultures of the world basically have stories that they tell of times when the earth was so radically different from what it is today. Stories about people falling in consciousness, losing consciousness of who they were and how things worked and how everything functions. And at the same time, all through the ages, there have been certain ones who kind of stood up in the midst of the whole thing and said, it doesn't have to be like this, let's remember the keys that were there. And what I remember this person saying was, they said, believe this or don't, whatever. But they said, a lot of the botanical essences were created in plants after what they call the fall of man, or the separation in consciousness, because there needed to be something to hold the balance while people got back on their feet, okay? So plants have very, very specific vibratory qualities, very, very specific biochemical qualities, okay? You'll find sometimes certain things like, jewelweed that grows right next to poison ivy. Jewelweed is something of an antidote for poison ivy. Well, where did all this come from? I mean, it's brilliant. But anyway, for thousands and thousands of years, people have used plants for healing. We just released a new ashwagandha product, which I was reading, it was, 5,000 years they know of that they've been using ashwagandha. And everybody's discovering it right now. I've been discovering it. I'm thrilled with what can happen with ashwagandha. Let me know if you're interested. I'll tell you more later. I will have a chance, by the way, to talk more specifically about Energetix at different points. But here's the thing. over the centuries, there have been those who recognize the importance of plants. And it's not just a matter of having a green thumb, although it has something to do with it. You know, it's going to be somebody with an affinity. But long ago, in the 11th or 12th century, there was a guy who's come to be known as Paracelsus. Have any of you known a bit about Paracelsus? He was part of the alchemical crew at that time who recognized purpose, okay, and applied it to various things, not just trying to make lead into gold, but part of what they did was they made what they called sovereign remedies from botanicals and blends of botanicals, okay? What they did with those sovereign remedies came to be known as spagyrism. Now, our botanical remedies, which are about a third of the line, are processed spagyrically. So the tincturing process in that type of a product is very different from standard sort of tincturing. To put it kind of in simple terms, if you make a cup of tea, you put the tea bag in the hot water, a bunch of the good stuff comes out and you throw away the tea bag, right? Well, that's valuable, but it changes the balance because most of the minerals are in what you threw out there, right, for example. So with spagyrics, what happens, the word spa means to take apart and gyria is to reassemble, okay? So in the process of producing a spagyric remedy, the water and oil soluble components of a plant kind of go on their own little course through a lengthy period of maceration, usually 2 or 3 weeks, okay, which is much longer than normal tincturing. The mash that's left over from that is burned at a high temperature, about 400 degrees Fahrenheit, I believe it is. And what results from that is a fine white ash. Now remember, the other two components of the plant, they've been going along macerating for however long it is, 3 weeks, something like that. But at a certain point, you reintroduce the different components to one another, including the ash. And as soon as you put the ash into the product, you see all these colors and different types of things that come back to life in relation to that remedy. Now remember, the other two components have not gone through high heat. So they still have their enzymes, but I'll tell you what else they have. They have their vibratory aura. Okay, I had a woman who was a client years ago in California who was doing a form of Kirlian photography, which I'm sure you're all kind of familiar with Kirlian photography, but she had some kind of a digital Kirlian setup. And she showed me the difference between our spagyrics and also the homeopathics as compared to other products she had. She took these pictures of them, and the difference was amazing at the level of, you know, the vibratory aura of the remedy. It was just very different from what else was there. So the spagyrics retain their mineral integrity. They also maintain the auric integrity, the intensity of the life force moving through the plant. And I've seen so many people where, if they're particularly sensitive, and some of you in this room I know are this way, but they'll pick up the bottle and immediately their symptoms will change without ingesting it or anything else, just picking it up. So now, that doesn't always happen. That would be great, wouldn't it? But often enough it does. So that's why the botanicals are done the way they are, just to give you kind of a overview of that. The homeopathics that we produce are what are called complex homeopathics. And I don't know if most of you are familiar with classical homeopathy, are you? How many? You know a bit about it? A little few. Classical homeopathy uses single substances. It was developed a good number of years ago, and it's effective in the hands of a highly skilled homeopath, but believe me, it takes a lot of skill to be able to do that. And in a sense, classical homeopathy was designed for a world that was pretty radically different from the world we have today. Do you realize how different the world is from what it was 50 years ago? You know, I'm 68. When I was born, there were 2 billion people on this planet. Now they're, what, 7.5? Getting on for 8, something like that. Do you know that in the last 50 years, we've lost 70% of the mammals on this planet? That's one of the things on my list. That's tough. Somebody was telling me the other day 60% of the turtles are gone, just in the last something like 30 years. You know, we are making a mess. Right? There are some really serious problems. But to go back to the homeopathy for a moment, classical homeopathy, and it's still a valuable tool for many people, but it's difficult. So it's called simple homeopathy, but it's actually pretty complex. On the other hand, complex homeopathy, where you introduce many different frequencies into the given remedy, it's relatively simple to use, and it's even more simple and much more effective now that we have people like Frank who have developed ways of measuring the body's reaction in the field to the substances. Now, Frank knew that homeopathy had some serious implications, and he and I spent a long time in his office and various places talking about it and, you know, thinking about how this could all work. But essentially, in homeopathic remedies, now I'm not going to go through all the chemistry involved with it, but you have all different things. You have cell salts, which is kind of what you're left with in the spagyric process after the burning of the mash. You know, you have cell salts. You have a whole variety of things like nosodes and sarcodes and different things. Nosodes are a highly dilute form of a noxious substance of some kind, right? So it could be arsenic. A person says, oh, you know, you put arsenic in your formula? Yeah, arsenic is a very well-proven homeopathic remedy that's been around for a long time. Now, you don't want to take arsenic in full strength or anything like it, but most homeopathic remedies are diluted to a point where there may well be not a molecule of the original substance in there. Okay, so what's still there? The essence, the energetic, the signal. Okay, the signal is still there. And in a complex homeopathy remedy, you might have 25 or 30 different elements in there, producing a variety of frequencies. Plus you have what are called homochords. And did I talk about homochords the other day? I think I did. But they are different dilutions of the very same substance, kind of stacked on top of one another. And each level is succussed. Okay, and in the case of our remedies, they're hand succussed. Somebody actually does it by hand at each level. So you fix the potency, what's called potentization. You fix the potency of the element at a certain stage, and then you can add the same element at another frequency. Kind of think of notes on a piano, or different octaves, that kind of thing. So you can have 3 or 4 octaves of the same substance in a homeopathic remedy. Now, I told you I didn't want to get into too many details about that, but here's the thing. And I had a woman say something to me in a class one time. She had started using Energetix, and she was one of these sensitive women. And she came up to me and she said, "Your products sing to me. They sing to me." And I thought, yeah, they do. And you get various people where they'll walk into a place where Energetix products are, and they're like, "What's that?" They're drawn to it. Well, it's because the products are emanating a particular type of vibration. Now, to be able to work effectively with that, you need ways to talk to the body. And the fact of the morphogenic field provides a wonderful way to be able to discuss things with the body. Right? Now, I've talked about the botanicals and the homeopathics. The third group in our line is nutritionals, and we have the nutritionals because there are certain things that the body cannot make, and not that there aren't lots of supplements out there, but most supplements honestly don't assimilate very well for one reason or another. So the emphasis in our products is all on assimilation, on how effective they are. And beyond that, nutritional products, as you might expect, also have frequency. okay? And how you combine the products produces further frequencies. And that becomes the most important thing, is how the frequencies are going to react. I remember when we were producing a product, this is a couple of years ago, called D3K2 Lipospray. Some of you are familiar with that product. It's become, I think, the second biggest selling product in our line after Drainage Tone, which is, you can imagine why that would be. But I talked to Frank about this product that was in production at that time. And I was looking at it from more or less a biochemical perspective, that D3 and K2 are both pro-hormonal products, so they create a very universal effect. I also knew that K2 is something that, maybe 95% of people are deficient in. I mean, that's just the way it is. K1 is very, sometimes people get confused with K1. You know, they give babies shots of K1 and that kind of thing. It's in leafy things. It's abundantly available. K2, unless you eat natto. Any of you eat natto?
Yes.
Good, no, there's some, yeah, but not many, because natto's a little slimy and smells a little funny, so a lot of people don't use it. But that's one of the few rich sources of various miniquinones of K2. But anyway, we put this remedy together, and I don't know whether you suggested the coconut oil back along the way. It must have been, yeah, I was working with a guy in a lab in California, and we came up with coconut oil as a binder for that. Well, that is a good example of where these three things came together, the D3, the K2, and the coconut oil. Put together, they were a monster product. We didn't know how good they'd be until Frank started testing, and we were doing classes, and we were noticing that virtually everybody responded to it. So the point I want to make about that is just that everything has frequency. Everything matters energetically, right? So that's why the Energetix line is put together the way they are, so that it gives you like a toolkit. And sometimes it's one particular remedy that does the job. Something Frank started figuring out is that, particularly with homeopathy, but not exclusive to homeopathy, you can take, one product that doesn't test for somebody, and a second product that doesn't test for somebody. Put the two of them together, and they are like a strike in bowling. I mean, it just totally happens, right? So Frank has been doing he's been doing research with that, and we have sheets. For those of you in the sessions tomorrow, I think I'll have some sheets for you on what we call power combos, all right? Things that you would never necessarily expect would work together, but when you put them together, you get frequencies you can't get any other way, and they work perfectly. So I hope it's helpful to you to give you this overview. I will have a chance to get into more details and the down and dirty of it. Particularly Sunday afternoon, I'm going to do a 2-hour class for any of you who aren't totally logged out by then. I'm going to do a couple of hour class on specifics, particularly those of you who are practitioners, I would expect might be interested in that. But in any case, any questions you have before I bow out? Okay.
How are you creating the dimensions in the frequencies?
The dimensions come from a number of different areas. For instance, you'll see flowers in the homeopathics. You'll see probably 10 different types of elements in there, all of which have different frequencies, and then you have the homochords, which stack them up in various ways. So it's not an easy question to answer in a sentence, but.
Then, Grant, how are you measuring frequency to begin with? With what kind of a device are you measuring? Is it a dowsing?
Well, there are various ways. We don't start there. What we start with is the hundreds of years of proving of homeopathic remedies, and this is a technical detail, but everything in our homeopathic products are HPUS approved. And the reason for that is so that we don't get shut down and you don't get stuff pulled off your shelves. But we start with what you would expect to be helpful there, and then often I'll send something to Frank and let him look at it and see what he thinks about it. We're doing that right now with one particular product. But in other words, we look at it in different ways, but you find that not only are the products important for their own internal frequencies, but you put them in the hands of a different practitioner, they will work quite differently than they do in the hands of somebody else in many cases too, because you're introducing your own kind of imprint in that, right? So other cases we get where for instance, I told you, like with D3K2 as an example, that's a product that tests for virtually everybody. What if it doesn't? Okay, well, we found that in certain people, we're pretty certain they were deficient, but they didn't test for it. Okay, everybody else is testing for it, why aren't you? Okay, so what we did was we thought it through a little bit, and we had them hold a bottle of our B complex, Phyto B complex, which is a premethylated B complex, particularly helpful for people who are MTHFR, with the gene SNPs and all the problems that way. In other words, they're not assimilating, right? They're not assimilating the Bs properly, but that is a bit of a cascade effect, because if you don't assimilate the Bs, you're not going to assimilate your, fat-based nutrients and, things like D3 and K2, right? So what we found is if a person held a bottle of the Phyto B, and then you retested them for the D3K2, the pathways open right up, right? So this is nowhere near a done deal, what I'm talking to you about. And I guess the last thing I want to say about this is that I particularly appreciate with what Frank has done, what Lee has done, and various others. Rick is doing a lot more extensive work nowadays with Energetix, and I hope he will continue to do that, because I can't do what they can do. I can do what I do, but isn't that true of all of us? And it comes back to my original thought about just, the richness of what is in this room. There's enough here that the whole world could be changed by this event. And, sorry if I'm not just talking about my products, but that's what's in my heart about this event. I'm so excited about what has come to us through the past, what we're doing in the present now, and for the fact that there's some vision for the future as the world heats up and things get stranger and stranger. Okay? In the middle of it, there's something else going on. And I'm sure our concern is to be as aligned with that as we possibly can be. So, thank you.
How are we doing on time? Oh, we're way ahead of it. You want to hold off and talk later? Do you want to say something right now real quick? What's up?
I'm just going to say I'll talk later.
Oh, okay. He said he's going to talk later. Okay, we're running over. Hope you don't mind, because it's been such a rich afternoon. We're going to take a dinner break. We'll start at 6:30. We're going to have the C60. I hope to God it's there at our house. We're going to go pick it up and bring it back in here from Shasta, and we're also going to have Max's new product that he's going to tell us what it's about and how it works. And then we're going to have all of our questions that you can come up with, and you can shoot whatever you want at us, and we're going to probably ask each other a few questions and see where it all goes. So we'll see you at 6:30.
Welcome back. So now we have a super fun time. But before we go into the questions and answers, I think that Frank might want to take a little bit of time and explain what's going to happen tomorrow. And then we're going to go into the question and answers. I've got a pile of them here. And we can stay as long as we're all interested to these questions and answers. Frank.
Okay, so I know some of you are signed up to come to our class tomorrow, and most of the people that this class is designed for are people who have been to our other classes around the country. And over the years, people have come up and asked us a lot of questions, and the questions are usually questions that we don't either have time to answer during a regular seminar, or it would be uncomfortable to answer these questions in an environment where you're getting continuing education credits. So I have a rule at those classes that we don't talk about woo-woo things, we'll talk about woo things. One woo, which means that there's some science that we can hold up and say, no, look, this is real science. And if we go beyond that, then we risk getting our CEU credits yanked. And that's important to the practitioners who come to our classes. So they need those so they can get relicensed for the next year. And we want to encourage them to use our work in their practice, because if you are in a practice that's dealing with natural health care, you would like it to be natural. And the field doesn't want things that aren't natural. It will contract down, restrict itself, collapse in when you subject it to things that are not 100% natural. And even GMO foods, pesticides, herbicides, anything with those in it will usually, instead of expanding and balancing a field, will usually contract it down. So our goal with MFT is always to get a larger, more balanced field, because in all the years we've been doing this work, we know that if we do any other kind of testing, if we do blood testing, or if we do dark field, or we do symptom surveys or system surveys in the body, we know that this expand the field concept is going to work. So that's really all we need to do as practitioners, is to measure the field before we start, find out what the body is interested in talking about, and then find solutions for what the body wants to talk about. So we just call it problem energies and solution energies. And it's just a very simple concept that in the end grows a bigger and more balanced field. So I've been using it for years. I have had a very successful practice in Port Angeles. I've treated over 500,000 individual patient visits, and we just know it works. And so my responsibility, I think, to the world right now is to get the message out there to the best of our ability. We do need tools or solutions to help expand the field, because even if you convert over to a truly organic natural diet, you're not going to get there anymore, because there's too many pollutants, there's too many electromagnetic stresses, there's too many other things that have made it impossible to be truly healthy. So we need tools like Grant provides with Energetix, and we use standard process products, we use MetaHerb products. I've never used the C60 in this way, but I did test it today. It sent my field out about 2 feet further than it was before I started, and my field's pretty good to begin with. It's usually about 7 to 9 feet generally. So this looks really promising to me, and if you can take and combine that with other truly natural supplements, truly natural changes to the diet, to the lifestyle, then you've got a very powerful solution to a lot of the problems that Americans now suffer from, because we are 37th in total health according to the World Health Organization, but we spend 3 times more on healthcare than anybody else. So the problem is that people have a vested interest in protecting their revenue stream. So we don't look like that's a really good thing to do to the people who are making a lot of money in our current healthcare system. So they would try to suppress this, and have tried to suppress it. So the information we're going to be talking about tomorrow is going to be about things that we don't get to talk about at our regular seminars. So I see a lot of people here who've been to many of our regular seminars, but it's going to be at least woo-woo and maybe woo-woo-woo. And somebody said it's probably going to be woo times 10, and that's okay, because we're in Shasta, and that's what makes it great. And tomorrow, and this is something that Candy has talked about for years, is being able to get up in front of a crowd and tell the truth about what we do, because we don't really get to do that in an environment where we have to worry about CEU credits. So that's what's coming for us tomorrow, and it's going to be an exciting time. Whether you have ever been to one of our seminars or not, you're going to get a whole boatload of information about healing and how you use the field to do it. So we're really excited to present all this new material, everything in there, 100% new material, and it's going to be great. So anyway, that's what's coming for us tomorrow.
And if you haven't signed up, Candy, should they see you tonight?
Yeah, we don't have very many spots left,
Okay.
but we do have some.
Okay,
So
great.
They should come see me, yes.
Excellent. Okay, good news and bad news with the C60. The capsules are here, but not the C60 in the liquid form. Oh, geez, Got to remember that, too. Okay, so we will have it tomorrow. The tracking says it will arrive tomorrow morning. We will have it available this weekend, the liquid C60s that you can purchase from us, the bottles that Max has been talking about. They're $70. And we do have the, what are we calling these again, Max? The capsules? The black seed in the capsule form is back there. And how many are in a bottle? 180? 150? 150? Okay. And, okay. And how many will you recommend them taking per day? Or 3 to 5 per day. Okay. Now, this is an interesting...
Everybody needs to regulate it based on what they
Right. Yeah, and that's what we do with the other people I work with that are on C60. We check them and we actually do the dosing, and we see anywhere from two capsules to 4 capsules with most of our clients that we work with per day. Okay, so that's, I don't know how that equates to what you're getting. When I talk about droppers, I'm sorry, droppers, not capsules. So I think I remember you telling me, a tablespoon is pretty good per day of the C60 liquid. Yeah. So, and that's about 4 dropperfuls. So, it's just so you know. But yeah, the people I'm working with, we test, because sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down. One of the things we have to watch for is how the liver reacts to these things, your toxins, if it's pushing your body too much. So that's why testing is really important as you're doing the C60, and then we track it with what we do in our clinic here. So, but yes, we'll have the liquid C60 tomorrow, and then we do have those available tonight. Since this is brand new and I didn't even know this was coming, we don't have in our QuickBooks yet for our charging, but we will take your information if you want to charge it. We'll destroy your information after we put it through this weekend on Monday. And if you can write a check or cash, you can pay for it. And Tanya back there will take care of that. So that's the logistics of that. Anything else?
What's the size of the C60? How many ounces?
2 ounce, right?
No, it's 3 ounces.
In the caps.
Bottle and a half in the gel cap.
In the gel caps, there's more. Okay. So it's a little bit different. How fast does it assimilate once it goes in? Does it go? Because it's a little different than when you put it in your mouth. Yes, no. What?
About the same.
About the same.
About the same. We use, ketosis strips. You can take a ketosis strip and that you measure ketosis if you're dieting, and you urinate on it. It's like a pH strip. And if you're overdose, you're getting too much, carbon will start showing up on the ketosis strip.
Ah.
And if you start just getting trace amounts, you're about right there
Okay.
for what you need. And you can reduce after that if your diet and lifestyle warrants it.
Right.
If you're going to fist fight and smoke cigarettes,
Right.
party all night, you probably need to keep the dose up.
Yeah. Maybe a bottle a day or 2, right? Yeah, and that's what we've seen with our research and what we're at with our clients that are on it. It fluctuates. It'll go from 4 to 2. Sometimes it drops down to 1 if I test people every couple of weeks that are working with us in the program. So it's important to regulate that, because just to bomb your system, I know, Max is a crazy man. He'll bomb a system and he can get away with it because you're pretty big. But a lot of people have very sensitive systems, and they have some problems that have to be resolved first so we don't overwhelm the rest of the system, and then that we get back up in liver stress and Herxheimer's responses, and you get headaches and you don't feel good because your toxins aren't moving out quick enough. So that's why we use the Energetix with the lymph tone and the drainage tone, and these are phenomenal products that open up those pathways right away. So, and I get people that call me that took too much C60 and they're dumping too fast because it's pushing things out. But I'll douse them over the phone if they're not in the country or in the state, and we'll check them for drainage tone and lymph tone. And 9 times out of 10, it's one or both of those to help them move the stuff out, and they feel better in 3 hours. So this opens up the pathways, and this is the stuff you're going to learn from Frank and Candy tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of fun to see how this all works together in conjunction with all these different pathways that we're trying to open for everybody. So with that, I think what we should do is, why don't we just all pull our chairs up here, and if anyone's got questions, Amara's going to be our moderator, and we'll just keep going, and we'll watch the time, and if you get tired of it, you can leave. We could stay till 12, but I don't know. They said they're going to close the resort at 9, so just so you know.
I've got this.
That's right.
Yeah. So, and
We're gonna
if questions arise and you have something to write it on, just send it up here. Okay. So the first two questions that came in were partly addressed already, but I'm going to offer them in case more for any of you comes up, and it is,
You gotta put that mic closer to your mouth.
There's no PA. You need to project out.
okay. So how much C60 should I take? And if I'm taking C60, should I do some detoxing? Those were the two questions that were sort of connected together, and they've begun to be answered. But is there anything else that any of you would like to say about those questions?
Yeah. Well, as I said a minute ago, what we see with the C60, once we get people on it and we're trying to clear out some other things if they got liver stuff and gut issues, then we go slower. We don't give them as much. We test them to see how much a body says it's willing to take on. That changes. And I like to see people every 10 days to 2 weeks. And by the way, when I test people and retest, I don't charge anything. That's my service to people. So I'm not just in this for the money either. I'm in this to see people get well and really accelerate their fields. So once you do an evaluation with us so we have an idea where you're starting from, then we also look at your blood. We got 2 reference points to say, okay, where do we go and how is this going to happen? And since we've introduced the C60 and with what we're already doing with the Energetix and testing with the kits, we have a whole lot of metrics now that we can actually see progress continually, and we continually retest to make sure that we're doing the protocols as what your field is telling us it wants. So we put people on different types of liver detox things, simple things, some of the Energetix products, some of other products like Ultra Clear that we've used for 20 years. It's extraordinary. Clears and flushes things out very quickly so that if you're getting headaches and things. So all of these things are a part of what we do and we offer here at the Remodeling Health Center. And it's extremely effective, and we see a lot of really great results. And I know a lot of my clients are sitting in the room here. Anyone want to raise their hand to say they're feeling pretty good? They're great. There you go. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else want to address this question?
I think you covered it.
Okay, all right. Another C60 question. How is the black seed oil different from the C60 coconut oil?
Okay, the reason we evolved to black seed oil, the carrier oils, medium chain triglyceride, which is coconut oil, is fractionated and is not organic no matter how much they say it is because it's been subjected to heat and it's been affected. It's still good for your body. We still see positive reaction, but we were looking for something antibacterial. We had different modalities that we were approached with viruses, toe funguses, people that have AIDS that are battling all of the above. And with those modalities, I said, which would be the perfect oil that you could take internally and won't kill the good bacteria, but will also correct some of the issues that we're looking to fix without just looking for a random carrier oil. And we started with black seed oil and ended with black seed oil because the results we got from feedback from various doctors in the field that buy the product from us now, and they gave it to some of their worst patients that weren't getting the results they wanted. And when they started taking the black seed oil, they said, oh, this is it. And so it's the attributes that the oil carries by itself beyond just the C60.
So, and again, if I understand this correct, this is the first time it's come out?
Yes.
You are all the first ones to take this.
And it's patented, so you're not going to get it from Bob in the garage.
So here we go. And we have it here. It's available. We're gonna keep it in our center, and we're gonna also do the metrics and look at the research as every one of you we're working with, and those that are interested in doing this, so we can feed this back to Max and let him know, and also with what you're doing, so that we can see the enhancers of and also what Frank will see in his testing and offering these things to his practitioners around the country. So, I mean, this is the starting point. This is exciting. I didn't get that until you sent me that box, and I said, I have no idea what this is. And he says, well, there's a surprise in it, and this is a surprise. So, very exciting.
All right, so we're just hanging there with C60 for a little bit. Will C60 protect against damage from EMFs?
Depends on the damage. And you know, when you go back to the rat study, I'm gonna go there because we haven't tested it with. We have and we haven't. Let me clarify this. Okay, we took C60 and put it in proximity of the Wi-Fi in our lab, and then we took the C60 away from the Wi-Fi and we measured the EMF field in the C60 prior to subjection and post subjection, and there was no change in the C60, which has no electromagnetic field. And if we put it on our impedance spectroscopy, we can see the concentration of consciousness in the C60 that originally was there. So if you were to tell me, is it good against EMF? It's not going to affect the C60 at all, and if it's in your system, then it's not going to do anything but help the body resist EMFs in a negative fashion, if that answers anything.
So when we look at people's blood, we'll see, Christina, free radicals, right? Free radical damage, oxidative stress. So the cells look like Coke bottles. And so that's the radiation that we're seeing from the EMF and from it's solar radiation, all kinds of things coming in because smart meters, right? All the electrical lines, that, things that are giving off charges that are out of balance and out of phase that affect your field and your cells. So we're seeing over and over less and less free radical damage because the oxidative stress is being eliminated. So you're less susceptible to the EMF factor when we have seen people taking the C60. So that would be our overall simulation or understanding of what's happening.
So I don't have a lot of experience with C60, but I do have some experience with radiation. So I took part in a documentary movie called Take Back Your Power. And it was about smart meters, and it all started with a phone call from the director asking if I knew of any damage being caused by smart meters. I was not aware of it, but I did have a smart meter, so I took my patients out, measured their field before I took them out, and then I measured their field again in front of the smart meter, and it obliterated everybody's field. So the evidence, the dark field evidence, is in that documentary, Take Back Your Power, which you can watch for free on YouTube. So write that down, Take Back Your Power. It's a great documentary about the dangers of smart meters. And that was about 5 years ago, and the message has gotten out there, so they know. But my point is, when you obliterate the field, there will be damage on dark field microscopy, and it's going to occur relatively quickly. So my brief experience with C60 is it expanded the field. So therefore, that's going to reduce oxidative stress in my mind, thinking the way I tend to think.
Okay, so since we were talking about live blood, here's a question on live blood. Very practical question. How much is a first-time session, and how much do follow-up sessions cost for live blood work?
Well, Christina charges for those new clients that we're working with. It's $125 for a visit. It takes about an hour, and then I actually go through and test people afterwards, and then we run them through the kits and things that we have, the Frank, and we also apply the Energetix products to whatever the field's telling us from what we see in the blood. And then we like to look at people, 60, 90 days, so that we can actually show the metrics before and what changes in 60, 90 days. We usually start seeing pretty significant changes within about 60 days once we get people on what we're doing. So we try to keep it fairly inexpensive. We know people that charge $300, $400, $500, but we're living in Mount Shasta. We want to make it appropriately, affordable to our people in general. We're getting a lot of people coming in from the Bay Area now because they're hearing about what we're doing here. But we're going to try to keep it at $125, and we're not in it, to make thousands of dollars. We're trying to help people, and Christina's establishing her practice. We've been together for about 3 years, and we're just getting more and more people just seeing how this changes their lives. So, yeah.
All right. How would a massage therapist go about bringing these products into practice? These products is sort of a general, but
How about you? Yeah, you get to talk for a while. We were just talking about it.
Right. Well, we have a lot of clients who are massage therapists. In fact, some of the most innovative and inventive clients in our group either include massage therapy as part of what they do or it's the mainstay. For a lot of them, they started out using products that would be more or less obvious in a situation like that. Like we have a couple of topicals that are enzyme based and drive deep into the tissues and things like that. One called Biocatalyne, another called Phytogel. These are the kinds of things that a massage therapist is going to use every single day with people, and we give them a few ideas on anti-inflammatories and antioxidant type things that are going to help more chronic pain, etc. So in other words, usually we suggest they start in the wheelhouse where they are, and then often they'll gradually start looking out beyond that. And my goodness, if they take one of Frank's classes or something like that, all of a sudden they're not going to be just massage therapists anymore. They're going to start working with kinesiological principles and so forth. So I don't know if that fully answers the question, but usually I feel good about somebody starting where they're comfortable and then gradually expanding out from there.
Some of the best MFT practitioners are massage therapists. I'm not really, I have a massage therapist working in our office, and their training on anatomy and physiology is certainly adequate to delve in and start testing the field. What I learned about field testing is when you have success with it, you're going to want to know why you have success with it, and you're going to want more information. So what it does is it sort of prompts you to get better educated yourself once you start getting these great results, because you're going to want a little better explanation about why it happens rather than just say the body said so. I, on the other hand, I've been through all that. My explanation of the body said so is perfectly okay with me. I don't think I need to get technical with it. So,
I do want to say something about working with Energetix, and now that C60's been thrown into the mix, we're learning new things every week. There's new discoveries, there's new combinations, and there's new perceptions of things that we have not been. I could probably work with Grant for the next 2 years and not understand what all these different remedies really represent. It's that extensive. It's extraordinary. So the exciting part of it as a practitioner is there's always something to learn, and you're always being stimulated.
Think of it like an instrument, like a piano. You've got 88 keys, but how many different combinations of music can you make with a piano? And that's the way to think, particularly about the range of products that are available to us, is they are all frequencies. They're like notes and overtones and chords and harmonies and all kinds of things. And believe me, none of us will ever get to the bottom of that barrel. There's more there than we'll ever plumb. But that's why I really encourage people to think beyond what they've learned, and to find out what the actual possibilities are, because there's huge possibilities here.
So here is a question that is kind of close to my heart because I do this kind of work, and the question goes, how can morphogenic field medicine be helpful in talk therapy, especially with clients experiencing trauma? So I do work with people who are working through their vasanas, their traumas, and I do it through conversation and also some hands-on healing. But because I'm part of the center, I don't get into the remedies. I send them to Lee, who's just downstairs from my office, and he takes over there because that is his specialty. But I imagine this could work a different way. So would someone like to respond to that? So this is talk therapy with trauma, people who are dealing with trauma or clearing the trauma.
I certainly believe in talk therapy where you have someone who's skilled the way you are with that. Not everybody is, although I think it's something you want to learn about. There are many illnesses that are directly related to conflicting patterns in people emotionally and so forth, and if you don't come up against those things in the course of a day, it'd be pretty surprising. So you need to learn how to help people through difficult spots. Remedy-wise, actually, we've got quite a range of things that can help take the edge off stressful situations, and that includes some spectacular herbals, some homeopathics that are designed, just specifically to relax people, help to pull them out of depression and so forth. And we have flower essence remedies, and I'm sure, how many of you have used them in the past, one way or another? Yeah, ours are a little different. They're potentized to a 30C, which is, homeopathically speaking, the level of the emotional body. So all of these things can make your work easier. And yet, we do need people who understand enough to be able to get to the root of what an individual is dealing with. But the point is, it can be done on a lot smoother track than probably most of us are familiar with. Did you want to?
So we, in Morphogenic Field Technique, teach 3 separate emotional techniques. And all of them are designed to do what we always do, which is take a small field and expand it out. So the talk it out therapy is fabulous and not easily replaced. And some people will try to do that, but the ideal scene is a combination of something that addresses your conscious mind, and then something else that's going to address the neuropeptide flood that happens when you don't really have any conscious control over your emotional reactions. So both types of therapies are very important and very necessary, and that's why we have 3 separate ways in our field work to address emotions. Plus, I also use neuro-emotional techniques. So we actually use 4 in our office, but it's such an important component to the health of the person dealing with their emotions.
All right, this is a question for you, Max. I am interested in communicating with bugs and animals. Is this intro on your website, and will you please give the name of your website again?
Okay. The website is Wymekla Ag, and it's alchemy spelt backwards with AG put on it. It's simple. It's complex when you hear it spoken with a Texas accent, but it's really that simple.
So it's a double A at the end?
Yes.
Could you spell it out?
Well, now you're asking me to spell it.
Your name is
Spelled alchemy backwards, and I got to see it written, and so.
Stress levels are going up.
Yeah.
YMEHCLA.
Correct. AG.com. And there's videos on there in multiple languages because we have Spanish and we're fixing to add Mandarin. Maybe in time we will share the box. I talk about it in one of our videos. We created a box that picks up conscious energy in a random field, and we can program 1,500 words in it, and you can talk to plants and animals with it. And we're not commercially promoting it. We're not, because I think it's a little much for society at this point. What plants and animals have to say may not be too conducive to what things are going on. So, but we do have a box, and we've pretty well perfected it, and maybe in time, but Wymekla Ag is an interesting. You can see the videos and some of the clientele's feedback, and it's an interesting start to a complex arena.
Max, are you using a quantum field?
Oh, yeah, using consciousness.
Yeah. It's using consciousness.
The quantum field, yeah.
Okay. What do you suggest for someone with Lyme's disease? Products, protocols?
Who wants to start?
Okay, so Lyme is, it's not Lyme's disease, it's Lyme named after a town in New Hampshire where, was it Connecticut? Well, New England. I'll say New England.
North of New York.
North of New York. Anyway, the big problem with Lyme is not the Lyme itself. That's a spirochete, technically, which is a bacteria. But there's many things that piggyback in on Lyme, and in our testing we have an energy of Lyme, but hardly ever does it test all by itself. Usually that's a problem power combo. You got to take and find out what other energies match up with that so you can develop the right protocol. So most people are looking for a protocol linear wise, and we don't do protocols linear, we do quantum protocols, and we call it the quantum conversation, where we just ask the body, have a conversation with the body, ask it specifically about what its concerns are, and if its concern is Lyme, or if they get a diagnosis of Lyme, we have a way to figure out and combine the energies to come up with a really pretty darn therapeutic protocol. But it's not going to be, one size fits all. That's not going to be the way it works in our world. So,
Do you have in your blood test an indication for Lyme?
We can see spirochetes.
Can you? Okay, because we have a couple of roadshow movie stars, music acts, country music acts that have Lyme disease, that take the C60, and I'm not saying it's cured, but I'm saying they are able to perform night after night without the effects. So you need the whole gambit here to protocol it, to measure it from its beginning stage to the progress it's being made. But we have seen positive results using the C60 with the black seed oil on the product.
Yeah, well, there are various things that can be helpful. There are a lot of botanicals, like I was saying earlier, certain things that seem like they were made for this or that. So we have a variety of botanicals that can be used for those sorts of things. Cat's claw, core olive leaf, core podarco, and these are all going to come at it from a different angle depending on what the situation is. And then you'll usually find those will come together with something like bacteria cord or virocord, depending on how it's evolved for that given individual. And then there may be things, Frank would tell you, that would totally surprise you. They just come out of left field and you go, why that? But because the body is suffering in this area, it's causing an imbalance that is moving something you would never imagine over in another area. So.
Yeah, that's a great point, because what Frank has given me the opportunity to not think about is, don't try to figure it out as a practitioner. It's virtually impossible, because the field has all the information. It has all the intelligence we could ever imagine. So the best thing we can do as a practitioner is to be open to any of the possibilities and let what Frank's designed with the kits and what we can match with the Energetix, and again, now we can boost it with the C60. So we're kind of in a whole new arena, which is very, very exciting. And so when people come to see me, it's like, I have no idea what you're going to need, but we're going to do the tested protocols, and sometimes those don't work. And I may see somebody, and next time I see them, I'll get an intuition, and we'll try this or that, and all of a sudden, bingo, and we get a result. So that's the magic. This is what you're saying. There's so many possibilities here, and to think that we're going to figure it out, well, if we did, we wouldn't be in this world the way we are today. So.
So here is a question that references the exercise that we did early in our afternoon session. Since we can connect to someone in Australia for work on MF, why did we have to touch in order to connect in Lee's exercise at the start of the day? So this is...
Well, let's put it this way. Theoretically, we don't have to touch. But we all got stuff going on in our life right now. And we all have so much happening in our field. So that if you can take the attention away from what the mind is processing or the emotional body's processing, and if we do this in a small group, we can literally, through touch, and we know what touch does with a human being or an animal. It excites their field. It activates and expands the field just by touch. We know this over and over and over. Just like with plants, animals, humans especially. And most people are lacking touching, especially in this day and age today. So I have people touch in a demonstration just to show you the power of how that works. Do you have to do it? I can't really say yes or no, but I know that if we do it this way, we get a result. So if we didn't do it this way, maybe we would have a better world, but we'd all have to take so much personal responsibility for that, and to be able to share with and touch and be with each other and not have the conflicts, the distortions, the yes or the no's, or the Republicans or the Democrats or the bad or the good. So, we're still living in a duality world. So that's more of a philosophical answer to it, and I think you might even be able to address that a little bit if you'd like to.
Actually, I would prefer to just have you, and perhaps all of you, share the difference between the exercise and the ability to work with people over long distance by the phone or Skype, because those are similar but not the same.
Well, we have 3 experts on quantum. So I think I'll refer to them, and they can answer that maybe in a more scientific way than I would, because I'm not a scientist by nature. But the field is everything.
Yeah. I'll drop it.
Okay. Set you up, there we go.
We're made of, your cell structure is over 70% water. And we've taken the actual cells of the body and looked at it at different illnesses and different medical conditions with different medicines. And then we subjected those cells to the same machines that we use for controlling bugs. And we saw mild changes. But when we isolated the water out of the cell, the cytoplasm, the actual water that makes up the cell, that the mitochondria and the DNA and all the soup of your cell is floating in. I'm trying to keep it simple. These guys may, when you separate the water's the key. And we can take that water, we can put it in nuclear resident imagery, and you will get a very ornate structure, as if, let's say, the structure of this microphone, if you're in harmony and if the cell is well. And when we see a degradation or an issue in that health of that cell, we see a distortion in part of this structure. And when we subject it, whether it's energy work, whether it's his medicines or his type of work or Lee's, you will actually see that water structure reconform itself to its optimal ability. So when we talk quantum physics, you can talk photon tunneling, you can talk hydrogen structuring. I mean, there's all these variables that they hypothesize, but we can physically see the structural change in the water of the cell, and modern medicine considers it junk because it doesn't have any action when it's actually the key player in the quantum aspect.
But Max, can you just go a little further as far as the distance in Skype from, like, using the field for a distance?
Okay, it's irrelevant. If we have Wi-Fi here and you have Wi-Fi in Texas, do you know that Wi-Fi is different? So this energetic field, we're swimming in an ocean. Put yourself into this perspective as if you stuck your head under the ocean for the first time ever with a mask on, and you have never seen National Geographic, and you see fish swimming and weird shit and bubbles, and you feel waves hitting you, and you see all these energies. We live in that medium right now. You're just not in tune to it to a point, and a butterfly effect here can cause a coconut to fall off the tree in Costa Rica. Whether you want to believe it or not, that's how it works. And I can prove it scientifically, and these guys can prove it through their work, but I can prove it, I can measure it, and I can show it to you with modern field science that makes scientists walk out of my lab and not talk to me anymore.
Lynn McTaggart wrote a book called The Field back in, I think it was 2001. And it's a wonderful book that showed up in New Age bookstores initially, and now it's required reading in several universities for physics majors. So the world has shifted, and it's going to continue to shift. So the question is a great question, and the thing I always say about great questions is they're usually going to be a lot better than the answers are going to be, right? Because people are not thinking in quantum thought very often. I try to talk them into it, but initially, at least, it takes about 3 seminars of our class before you really start to own the material, because we are linear thinkers. We learn A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, 2 plus 2 is 4. Linear thinking is what we do. And then as you progress and you get through all the different stages of science, you have to, at some point, get more into quantum thinking to learn more. And then beyond that, you start thinking in spiritual terms. So the water molecule is huge just from the very fact that it's polar, right? The other thing that's important is intention seems to matter when you're doing quantum work. So if you have the intention of testing somebody over a distance and you believe you can do it, that's an important aspect to it. So we're going to be talking about all this stuff. This is the stuff I can't talk about during, it's woo-woo-woo. It's, But is it still physics? Yes, it is. Ask Lynn McTaggart. She was criticized profusely when that book came out. And now, who's right? It was her. So.
Lynn McTaggart is someone who I knew and actually worked with for a while, and she was doing experiments in cities all around the world and getting people to come into a cohesive field. And you heard about the HeartMath Institute and they used coherence. So Lynn was actually doing it to target intentional things within the city, getting enough people to create a field. For instance, let's stop the crime or see how much we can reduce the crime in a 24-hour period in Albany, New York. And so she picked target areas, picked specific people to do certain things like meditating. And you've heard about this, and the Maharishi Institute's done this and all kinds of different things. But Lynn had gotten to the point where she could prove it scientifically over and over and over. And no one was buying into it until we started having the police departments report crime dropped 40% in 24 hours in a given city. And they didn't know why, but Lynn had already set it up and showed a study that this is what we're going to do. We're going to have metrics, we're going to get feedback, and then we're going to ask the officers in the field, what was your night like? And they said it was kind of boring. And so these are the things intentionally that we all are capable of doing. That's why every single one of us that Grant said earlier, you all have a field that could change the world. And Marianne Williamson has said, we're afraid to step into our true power. Well, guess what? We don't have a choice anymore, especially with the times we're coming into. You have to step into this and be a pioneer or be a facilitator or be of service if you want to have a happy life and a good life. So.
Okay. And Lee does work distance with people and has a very good record of getting the proper information from a person in Europe from his office here in Mount Shasta. So this is a capacity that we all have if we have that quietness within to be able to put ourselves away.
I just have a little comment here. I've had a little help from my unseen friends as well.
Okay. Oh, okay.
We have marijuana growers, and it's legal. I don't know where we're at and what country we're in or state, but in Colorado it's legal. And so we had marijuana growers that were driving me nuts on a daily basis about the plants. You know, one of my plants looks sick. Well, what the hell does that mean? You know, and I don't have time to check every plant in every growth facility. So we created a plate with 2 mirrors on it that were a foot tall, and we took a picture of that space with a camera, okay, empty, and then we sent it to them. And they can take their plant, sit it on that space, in that space. I can put that space in my machine, and I can read and tell you what's wrong with that plant from afar. And then they would take the plant off of there and say, oh, well, what's wrong with it now? So you don't have a plant on there. There's nothing showing up. There's no energy in that field, in that proximity that I am monitoring. And we've got that. So these devices are in Argentina. These devices are around the world. This is what we do with some of what we're doing in the lab. There's more. Stick around.
Well, one thing that can be said before we leave the subject of touch, you can touch a person and not touch them. Am I right?
Yes.
I'm sure you've had the experience. On the other hand, you can touch a person who's thousands of miles away, and it can be a profound experience. You know, so what we think of as touch, when we talk about the physical level of vibration, it's a relatively coarse level of vibration in one sense. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I'm just talking in terms of gradation. Okay. However, when you go to higher levels of vibration within the same field, those stop being different things. Okay, there's a certain level where everything is already unified, and you can touch in all kinds of different ways. Some of you have done work probably with your hands, you know, maybe through Reiki or something else of analyzing. What is it you're analyzing? You know, it's the bioenergetic field, but it's not a bunch of electricity. It's like flesh in a certain way at a different level, and you can touch through that. Now you can just as easily analyze and work with that field from thousands of miles away as you can with a person right in front of you. It's almost no difference at all. You just need to have the connection. So, you know, I don't have a great point to all this, other than the fact that we need to open our thoughts to the possibilities and realize that what's happening at these higher vibrational levels, it's denser or more concentrated than what we think of as going on at the physical level. And to use an example, I shouldn't do this. To use an example like sex, for instance. Okay, let's talk about sex. But where that activity really occurs in any significance is at these higher levels, and the higher levels then include the lower levels, not the other way around. And that's what people try to do typically, is they try to make themselves a great experience by, trying to figure out physical techniques to do it. But the vast bulk, the concentrated bulk of what's going on is at the higher level, and then it permeates the lower levels, and they're fine. Okay, they play along just fine, right? But it helps to start opening up our thoughts to this sort of thing, and then we find we're not so ground-based. Like when we leave this place at the end of this weekend, are we still going to be connected? I hope so. And I think we will be on the basis of our common concern for the kinds of things we've been talking about. So, anyway, didn't expect to talk about sex, but there you go.
It's a great subject. All right. Using Energetix and C60 over a period of years, will an individual be able to reduce the volume of these products? I guess what I am asking, if an individual came to a place where the field is complete and able to, could it be able to heal itself? Anybody want to choose on that one?
I'll start.
Okay.
As long as you're breathing, you're creating oxidative stress. So at some point, you've got to continue to take C60, or you've got to improve your diet beyond conception to offset food and breathing in this world. Even just if you were a breatharian, which is a real thing, you can look it up. If you were a breatharian, and we're good woo-woo. If you were a breatharian, you still age because of the oxidative stress value. And so if you took C60 and you're a breatharian, don't know. And you add energy to it, now the game's afoot.
So we're advocating for breatharians. Well, my experience has been yes and no. It depends upon the person you're working with. Number one, can you alter their lifestyle? Can you get them away from the things that created the toxicity to a big enough degree that you're going to make some really long-term permanent changes? If they don't think they have to participate by changing something in their life, then you're going to be on whatever products you test for forever. Now, my big problem has always been mercury. I had mercury put in my teeth when I was a kid, and getting that stuff out is next to impossible. But you know, the best tool for me was the homeopathic combination of metabopath and Metacord from Energetix. But I can not stop taking it. If I stop taking it for more than a few days, then my skin starts to itch, which is my symptom that I get when I can tell the mercury's starting to build in my body. So get right back on it, and it goes away. Now, do I like to walk around and itch? No. So I'm motivated. I'm going to do what it takes to keep that stuff moving through my body. But then you get other people who need homeopathic remedies just to open a channel up. And once the body gets that message, then it's a short-term use of homeopathy. So it really depends upon the person. How are they going to react in their life, and are they going to make any changes that they need to make, and how good is their practitioner at directing them in that way and letting them know who's really responsible for their health, because in the end it's going to be them.
So the people I've worked with that stick with the protocols and change their life and start looking at things that has put them there in the first place in terms of their lifestyle, traumas, and of course life events itself. Our goal is less is better. Always. Always, always, always. Less is better. If you only have to be on 2 or 3 or 4 remedies in this world, that's a pretty good, in my book, you're doing pretty good. We're all taking remedies all the time, and we probably always will, because we're dealing with so many toxins and so many bugs. And the frequency of this planet, until it shifts, we're sort of locked into a field, and the way we're trying to get out of it is really step more into the quantum understanding and acceptance of that. And then I believe, and this is where I think I might be able to trigger Max again, it might start activating some of these genetic codes and disruptor energies that have been locked out. Have anything to say about that, Max? I'll tell you what my premise and my my intention and my hope is. And that is that we have had our genetics messed with for a long time, okay? Whether you believe it, whether you understand it, there's been outside forces, but there's been inside forces that have basically tried to keep us pretty dumb and stupid and locked into slavery. I call it slavery. That's the word, okay? So, you either decide you want to become free and do anything it takes and willing to do anything and whatever it takes. So in my world, as Grant said earlier, I'm tenacious. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to the end of my life, activate some part of these things that have kept us in slavery, and that's why we're doing what we're doing, and to start freeing ourselves into potentials that we already are. Okay. So I've seen both sides of that. I've seen things that our government and other entities have attempted to do to those of us that are starting to wake up. And at this point, because of the way the world's changing so quickly, because of consciousness starting to become aware of these things, whatever it takes is probably the most important advice I could give anybody. And do it. And try it. And you've got lots of people and other people that are going to continue to see how we can navigate through this together. And genetics, the markers, the codons, the switches, they got to start turning on. And then we're not going to be dealing with this kind of forces anymore, because we are going to become the divine beings that we are, and we're going to walk on this planet in a whole new world.
Yeah. So how many are aware of Pottinger's cats? Okay. Pottinger's cats. Okay. Dr. Pottinger was a medical doctor from the LA area, and he ran a tuberculosis clinic, and he found that the adrenals played a large role in whether his patients got better. So he did a lot of adrenal studies. So he took the adrenals out of cats, which was okay in those days, and then he started feeding them different varieties of diets. But he found that if he fed them raw food and meat and milk that was raw and not processed, not pasteurized, not homogenized, not cooked, not processed, he had really strong generations of cats. But when he didn't have that food available and fed them processed foods, pasteurized milk, right. So depending upon the diet of the cat's next generation either was enhanced or suffered. And so within 3 generations, some of these cats couldn't reproduce because their diet was so poor and their bone structure deteriorated. So he predicted that, they call it Pottinger's prophecy, within a few generations, the same thing was going to happen to humans. Cat generations were rather quick. Humans generations were a lot longer, but one of the problems with the cats, they couldn't reproduce, or it was very difficult for them to reproduce. Now look at all the fertility clinics we have going on in the United States now, and a lot of the things that he talked about and predicted back in the 1930s have come true. So it took 3 generations to get these cats in this bad of situation, but 4 generations to turn them around by giving them the food that they thrived on. So it is possible to do, and you never want to give up, but if you're going to have a better next generation, you better start with the kids, because the kids have to have a good, healthy body before they think about ever getting pregnant. Okay. So that is... Okay, Max. Okay. But you get the mic now.
Yes. Talking about certain codons and chromosomes and things that are turned off in our body. And you see it, they call it savant syndrome. You see it in certain individuals. It may bump their head, or they don't know why. They will tell you, say myself, fall and hit my head or get beat up outside of a bar, and then all of a sudden I sit down at a piano and start playing Mozart, and they say, oh, well, your mother's sister's cousin must have played Mozart No, hell no. You know, that's not programmed into my system. All it did was adjust my antenna to pick up a new cable channel. That's what it did. And if you think about your knowledge, and your knowledge on hand is just enough to literally keep you functioning, and the rest of your knowledge is in a cloud, the conscious cloud, and you start forgetting who who you kids were that you ran around with when you were 8 years old or 14 years old, and you start forgetting other things. All that is static in that cloud between you and that connection. It's nothing wrong physically with your brain in that context. All we have to do is figure out how to pick cable back up. And I talk about this mildly in my videos. I throw hints out there to see if anybody picks this up or not. When we do testing at the lab, we're working also, we map the brain. We're also working on increasing telekinesis, increasing the unseen values of mental capacity and consciousness, okay? If everybody in this room could read everybody else's mind, let's just say on one question, then none of us would have to lock our door, none of us would have to carry money, none of us would have to have a police force, because you couldn't lie to the common person next to you. Because if you could walk up to somebody and ask them a question and you're able to read that information, all of this goes away. All this craziness goes away. So they took that out of the equation purposely for a control mechanism. There's no way that it's available through modification and through savant syndrome, hitting your head, changing the cable channel, but normal people, the average normal person, doesn't have that ability to read if you're telling the truth or not. But if we did, then this control society that we live in would not have to be here. So that is one of the big things that we're working on correcting, and hiding it in a product. You know, if you wake up one morning and say, my husband's lying. Don't give him my number.
That's starting to happen to me, Max.
Okay, I get it.
Okay, and I take full credit for your invention. It's wonderful. Yeah, I mean, the more you take the C60s, your brain function changes. Your ability to, I'm a better practitioner. I'm more tuned in with the people I work with, my relationship, my friends, the world at large. Everything is, my biochemistry has changed dramatically in the last 9 months. And maybe the ones around me can sort of see it, especially my partner, Amara. But they're doing something interesting in Mexico. I don't know if any of you saw this video that Jeff Berwick and this other guy did. They took a small village and they literally kicked out the police, the military. Have you seen it? It's pretty profound, isn't it? Yeah. And they started self-governing, okay? And they took some of the principles that Gandhi used when he freed up India, nonviolence. They work with the young people, and what they're trying to do is, if they got a challenge or an issue, if they go do a robbery or something, they bring them in there, and they don't punish them. They do the opposite. They try to get them to tell us, what are you dealing with? What are your challenges? What are you mad at? What are you frustrated about? Why are you not happy? And then everyone surrounds this being to let him know that he's not alone. He doesn't have to go hurt somebody else, because all it's going to do is hurt himself. But the effects are, if he doesn't do it this way, he's going to have to leave. And that's really what I think we're going to see on this planet in the very, very near future. And we're starting to see it with certain energies that really have been controlling us for a long time. So our consciousness can drive this to a whole different place without violence, without conflict, but inclusiveness. And this is what we're seeing, and we have to activate these aspects of ourselves that have been dormant, because we have all the capacity to do whatever we need to do.
What's the documentary?
We'll give it to you. It's Jeff Berwick did it with the guy that was
Jeff who?
Jeff Berwick. Just YouTube Jeff Berwick, and it goes to the city of Mexico. Okay, it's called
The region, and the city is like something like
yeah.
Chirac.
It's only a 15-minute video. It's a off each other. Everyone, there's 30,000 people there. There's no conflict. There's no hate. There's no
Well, when you add the police force, not only are you creating that that subconscious effect from the people because of oppression, but the police bring the attitude into the equation, affect the fields. I mean, it's a combination of all of it.
And the military. They
And the
took out
military,
too.
yeah.
Yeah. And all the drug cartels around them, they left. Because the field was too strong. They couldn't manipulate it. They couldn't take the people over. And the
So
people
how did they do that there?
It was a revolution. They kicked them out.
They just said, we're done.
Yeah.
We've had enough. And this is a city that has been known to go back to the Aztecs and the Spaniards and say, you can't take us over. It was one of the few cities or little counties in the entire country of Mexico that stood up against the Spaniards and other different forces and said, no, we aren't going to allow this. And they didn't. And that's been going on for 500 years. So it's possible here. It's possible anywhere. Yeah.
So there is a depth of understanding that applies itself to cosmic truth, not mental truth, not linear truth. When all these, beautiful beings here are describing aspects of that, and we are that. So understanding is a big component, but not mental understanding. Okay. Have you heard of the benevolence or healing range of radio frequency? And could you speak of this and its potential?
What's meant by radio frequency?
I have no idea.
The same frequencies that will be providing us 5G wireless have a benevolent or healing range.
What do they?
Dr. Klinghardt has made reference to it. And as I understood it, I could be wrong, there are actually some places that they could have made a choice when they chose the frequency for cellular phones, and they chose the destructive frequency rather than the healing or benevolent frequency, which indicates that there may have been some intention there from the beginning. So I've been looking everywhere to find out what this is, and thinking that we could maybe do some work in that area to project that field on the 5G field or something. So that's why I'm asking. I just can't find a thing about it.
He's got it.
Well, as we all know, we talked about Matt Yoda earlier and Jeremy Pfeiffer and research in frequencies and vibrational energy and intent on water and other. You're correct in that statement. I've looked at I've even looked at, because I have a repeater tower that has to send signal to one of my off-grid properties. And I looked at changing carriers just because the bandwidth of their carrier frequency was closer to a healing modality than a detrimental modality, if that's what you're asking. And we can't, unless you mechanically have the ability to change your phone or change, your Wi-Fi instrumentation. They're designed to be a repeater of this derogatory energy.
Right.
I mean, that's the way it's designed, and you're exact on with that question, and they could have very easily done it. There's carrier frequencies in those bandwidths that would promote health, but they're not using it. I've got pictures on my phone when I used to keep a phone on my ear 20 hours a day, and I had carcinoma cancer all over my ear. They were going to cut my ear, and started using the C60 and I'm not exaggerating. It's gone. I've got pictures of it in all its various stages, and it just rotted and fell off my head. Dried up and fell off my head, and they wanted to do chemo and radiation. So I know that the subjection even to your phone is detrimental. Us at our lab, when I talked about it earlier about the flower of life, and he talks about this energy, we could prove it maybe tomorrow. We could take an emblem of the flower of life. We can print it off somebody's computer tonight, and he could field energy test things, and we can put that flower of life on it, and you will see that it will block the consciousness will try to block that detrimental energy and repel it. So all the scientists at my lab, we all have flower of life stuck on electrical outlets. We got them stuck on our cell phones because we have measured that effect. I mean, my wife just pulled her phone out and it's on the back of her phone.
Right here.
So, and it's proven. It's not some hokey, I can measure it scientifically. So can we combat it? To a point. Unless you walk around, you tattoo your body in a flower of life and drink holy water and I don't know, but can we combat it? We're only able to do as much as we can do, but push the limit. You know, you can either get in line and moo like a cow or kick the boards out and run free for 15 minutes. That's your choice.
We do not have smart meters in my town anymore. We got rid of those. And the way we did it was we just took that documentary film and scheduled time at the library and let the whole town know, come look at this film and look at the data that shows that what the damage from smart meters. And we had so many people down at the city council, there was no room to hold them. And that was not typical for our town. Our town usually got 4 or 5 people showing up at a city council meeting. So it can be done. Let's take back.
If a town can do it, it's this town.
Yeah, if any town can do it, it's right here, right? So
Our city council did vote that we don't have to have them, and yet they're still making us pay for not having them. But yeah, we did fight it very hard.
Yeah.
What was the name of your documentary one more time for people who don't?
Take back your power. Yeah.
Appropriately named.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't my documentary. I just was in it.
I mean, the one you're speaking of.
Okay. If someone cannot take alcohol, how can they use the energetic products?
Sounds like yours,
Yeah, well, that's a part question. There is alcohol in the homeopathics, about half what there is in most homeopathics, because we use glycerin for the other half of that kind of substrate. The botanicals also have alcohol simply because it's the best way to preserve a spagyric remedy. It's part of the way of processing that way. So here's the thing. You can put a remedy into warm water and let it sit for, say, 20 minutes to half an hour, and the vast majority of the alcohol will evaporate off on that basis, and what's left, believe me, would be a lot less than what you get eating a ripe banana. So this is where you have to kind of talk things through with people. Some people are so sensitive to alcohol that just the taste of it could drive them over the edge, and you've got to consider that. You don't want to just, take a glib approach to it. And maybe people who can't do it from that standpoint. But that's the best way I can describe it. Most people do use the means of using the warm water and letting it evaporate. Yeah.
I would say if people are that sensitive to alcohol, maybe just holding a bottle is enough. Because it is
Well,
vibration.
Yeah, it is, and holding the bottle would help for a period of time, but typically you're going to want to have it kind of running in your system, which is why it's so much more effective to do that. If you're just doing a test on a person, having to hold the bottle is just as effective as if they'd taken it. But you want to get it into them typically.
So the body will pitch onto that after a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a comment on that.
Yes.
You can absorb from your hand, let's say if you put the drops with intention.
Uh-huh.
But those drops then are done, the energy is gone. And if you hold the whole bottle, you're just draining that bottle. So you're wasting it.
Right. And you bring up a good point, actually, that another thing you can do is you can put the water or the homeopathic remedy on, say, some area like the inside of the elbow or the navel or the feet, things like that. We've had people put the remedies into creams and put them on people's feet in situations in hospital and that kind of thing. There are a lot of ways to get the remedies to absorb, and that's another advantage of spagyrics that I didn't mention is they cross the dermal barrier very nicely, so that works quite easily, and the same is true with the homeopathic. So I hope that helps some. It's not a total answer, but it's the best we have. So.
Well, we can reprogram the body.
That's another matter. Yeah.
Frank, could you talk a little bit about why there can be sensitivity?
Why there would be a sensitivity? Well, there's a lot of things. Neurogenic switching is a real common problem. That's when you do the exact right thing, but you get the exact wrong result. And there's a number of reasons. We have a big problem now in America with non-alcoholic fatty livers. Mostly it's from Roundup. And the Roundup has destroyed a lot of livers, so the body's ability to process things is not the same. I had this week a very irate patient who I hadn't seen for a while come in and tell me how mad she was at her doctor, who accused her of drinking a lot of alcohol because she had a fatty liver, and that's the only reason for it. And I said, well, obviously your doctor's not up to date on the problems with Roundup and what it's causing this other condition called non-alcoholic fatty liver. So it's just the sensitivities have to do with biochemical individuality. They have to do with a lifetime of doing the right thing versus doing the wrong thing. And there are just some people who certain body types are more sensitive. So it's not a factor, it's usually a number of factors all coming together, and we try the best we can to reduce sensitivity. And we actually do a pretty good job at it, but once in a while you get somebody that just defies anything you do for diminishing their sensitivities.
In the optimal eating plan of 4 hours and 24 hours, does the body optimize the detox release of heavy metals in ways so that Hertzheimer reactions don't happen? You want to? No, this. Yeah. Should I read it again? You guys got it.
Yeah, we got the question.
Okay. Okay.
The answer is.
It's probably the lectin issue as well. And I think that's what you're referring to, some of the lectin and Godfrey's work. And yeah, and you're actually on it, aren't you? Haven't you been doing it?
Yes.
Maybe give a little bit of an insight what's happening.
Well, they're talking about detoxing.
In the optimal eating plan of 4 hours and 24, does the body optimize the detox release of heavy metals in ways so that Hertzheimer reactions don't happen?
Whoever wrote that question, everybody's different, and their levels of toxification are different because everybody's lifestyle is different. Now, in my suggestion of the optimal meal gapping, where you put 20 hours in between your meals, what you're doing is you're allowing the body to break down senescent cells which have accumulated in your body like foam and are absorbing a majority of your minerals and products that you take and starving the rest of your body. That's why you see it as you grow older and older. And I did the optimal meal gapping for the purpose of removing the senescent cells. I didn't do it for the removal of metal toxins. So I don't want to give a professional opinion or a non-professional opinion of how it would detox those metals, which may be something for one of y'all. With the proper help, probably not a problem at all, or very limited. But as far as the other toxins that are involved in your body, if you limit water intake, and you have to be smart about this, if you're out mowing the yard and digging ditches, you need water. But if you limit the water intake out of that 20 hours, which is completely against what society tells you, your body starts breaking down the fat cells and the oxygen and creating synthesized water that is perfect for your body. And you will urinate, like I said, as much, if not more, than you do if you drank water. And the reason you do it without water is it amplifies the effect 3 times. So you get 3 days worth of water meal gapping within 1 day if you do it 24 hours that day, if that makes any sense at all. So I, like myself, we ate lunch today. I ate lunch yesterday, but in those interim periods, other than brushing my teeth, I try to shower and brush my teeth within that 4-hour window because your body's scavenging for water during that period. Now, is it detoxing the metals? All I can say is I feel younger, I look younger, science says I'm younger, and I feel great. Other than that, I can't answer the metal question.
Well, what we're seeing when we work with people and we look at their blood, one of the things I'll mention to most everyone I work with is that we're not going to get a Herxheimer's response. We're not looking for that because that means the body's been overwhelmed or it's been pushed or it's been, and unfortunately, a lot of practitioners believe that's a good thing. And I don't believe it is. I think it's the opposite. You're overwhelming the system. And what we're trying to do is optimize the ability for a system to release without getting overburdened. And I know that that's what Frank and Grant, we've talked about this a lot about how do you pull this stuff out, how do you move the field, but you don't overburden it or overtoxify it. So maybe you want to share.
Well, I mean, it's true that individuals are so different in this area particularly, and it's a major area of concern, not just with heavy metals, but with other things. In our line, we have 5 different cords, which are the targeted detoxifiers, all of which will assist with metals. And then you have Frank coming up with whole different combinations that work perfectly for certain other people. So in a sense, there's no way around the fact that we need to learn some discerning techniques of assessment relative to that. But the other side of it, and this is just a general statement, is that when you're in a process of detoxifying, you also need to be draining. And the drainage products, which we call the tones in our line, the drainage products are so important to the detoxing process, because if you detox from one area of the cells and it's just start floating around and land anywhere, that is not going to help. And if you're getting constant Herxheimer's reactions, then like Lee just said, you're putting too much pressure on the system, and you kind of got 2 pedals there. You got to work. So again, here's where the value of being able to talk to the field and careful dosing. I was just telling somebody about a situation we had with a young boy who was autistic, and he was testing very strongly, very definitely for drainage tone. Drainage tone is a general drainer that it's our best-selling product. We sell more of it than anything else. But this little boy could not handle even 1 drop of drainage tone without going into a hyper sort of condition. It turned out that what he needed was 1 drop of drainage tone in a bathtub of water, and then the boy in the bathtub. And that worked really well. He loved it. It settled him right down. But the point is there are just a lot of factors there, and if you try to take just one concept about that and overlay the whole thing, you're going to have problems. So apart from that, You just need to think what's likely to be most effective for a given person. I'll just say one other thing about metals, and that is that it really helps to use an herb called cilantro in relation to that process, because it crosses the blood-brain barrier and can help chelate metals that you've stirred up in other ways. Okay.
There's one question left, unless anybody else wants to quickly write one. I believe this is addressing the projects that you're doing with farmers, Max. Are you programming bio or eco-diversity into the crops you are working with?
Can you repeat that?
Yes. Are you programming bio or eco-diversity into the crops you are working with?
No. And I say that what we're doing is removing the adversary of the crops. And reducing the detriment of the crop. We try to let Mother Nature do its own thing. We have modified marijuana plants. That's a different rodeo than out in the field, because when you promote the growth of the marijuana plants, and I'm not trying to go off on a marijuana kick, when you promote the growth of marijuana plants, something in its biological field is going to suffer. Well, they have found that the suffering is the potency of the marijuana, the THC. And so we energetically, consciously affect, and after you have used our technology, you see a 5% increase in the THC as well as the increase in the plant. So we know we can do it. We just don't do it in the field because it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort just to move bugs. And now they're wanting me to replace Mother Nature and to improve its growth, or, you know, we did do a project down in Southern California where we had a freeze coming in and they couldn't get the plants prepared with torches and covering them, and they called in us and asked us if we could do something, and we physically heated the plants up to prevent the freeze using energy from afar, and it worked, and they're one of our customers. So so other than that, we try not to, but it was a great question. Here, I'm gonna pass it back in case you want to talk. Is that it?
Yeah, that's the end of the questions.
A couple things. If you're interested, we will have the liquid C60 tomorrow. If you want to come by here, if you're local, or if you're going to be in the workshop or the weekend training with Frank and Candy, we'll have some. Nicole will be here to help purchase that for you, and also the black seed in the back is available tonight. So we film this, and with permission of the guys here, and they didn't have a problem with it. I don't know what we're going to do with it. There's so much new stuff here that is not out in the public. And I want to honor all of us to make sure that we don't do things or say things that could come back to any one of us. But we don't need to put it out there right now, but most importantly, it's part of our archive, because this was an exceptional experience. I'm really grateful that I had a chance to share with you. It was fun, and I hope that we can do a lot more of this and bring a lot more colleagues into the mix, because there's so much diversity and so much potential and so much of a chance for us to really change things and get you all to be involved, to participate in whatever way you want, whatever works for you. So this has been an experiment, and I think it's done pretty well. So yeah, really. And so we're going to do this next year. We'll probably have to get a bigger room because the word will probably get out, which will be good. And from here to next year, a whole lot of things are going to change. So my best advice is to get your body in good stead, get your psyche in good stead, keep your heart centered, as I showed you earlier about just staying in your homeostasis, keep your field centered, support yourself with good foods, good people around you, and find that which creates happiness and the wellness. And if any of you are interested in talking to anyone here, we'll hang around for a while. We have our wellness brochures, and there's evaluation sheets back there if anyone wants to take one home and maybe call us up and make an appointment. We only do our work here in town by appointment only. We don't take walk-ins because we just want to keep ourselves in good stead. Let's put it that way. And we want people that are really wanting to change. So we're not looking for people walking off the street just looking for a thrill or looking for something to do here. So we discern that too, because we want to honor those that really want to make a difference and change within themselves. So I want to thank Grant, Max, and Frank, and Amara, my partner. You did a wonderful job. Thank you so much for monitoring what we're doing. And Christina, part of our team, you've played a huge role in my life, and I hope we do a lot more together. And Nicole, our massage therapist, and my office manager, who has taken a huge load off me in the last several weeks since we've started the center. And David, our chiropractor, he's got some exceptional things he's doing here in town that not too many people know about. So if you're interested, our brochures are back there. Frank's going to give you all kinds of stuff this weekend. Grant's going to show you all the products if you're hanging around here. Are there brochures if people want to take them home? Any of them, or do you have any extra ones?
Anything on the back table is fine. I've got other packets for Frank's sessions.
Okay. And Max, how long are you sticking around? Sunday. So we're gonna have a little fun Saturday night. It's Max's birthday. How old are you gonna be? 58. All right, we're gonna celebrate his birthday Saturday night. So it's really an honor to have you come here and be with us and be willing to share your birthday. And watch for some. If any of you wanted, sign up for our newsletter, because we're going to be putting out information about what all of us are doing. Maybe another event. We don't know. We have no idea. We're just going to let the quantum guide the way. So, thank you all for coming, and namaste.